back to the Hearthstone Global Games. Before we go any further, just to give an update, Portugal versus France is still ongoing. The score is still 2-0 with Portugal, sorry, 2-1 with Portugal winning, and they're currently in the midst of an Odd Warrior mirror match.
And I have to say, while I would have before that loved to have been casting that series, two teams that are on the brink of elimination but both have a lot of potential, now I could not be happier that we don't have to cast another Odd Warrior mirror.
Instead, we are going to be bringing you on stream Battle of the Titans. It is the final 3-0 matchup to find out who the other team that will be ending this week on 4-0 will be. It's going to be Brazil versus Spain. Let's take a look at the lineup of players representing these great countries. Raze, Perna, Lucas, and Nevs versus Riku97, Akawanda, Delsung, and Jacobo.
Yeah, I got to see from the Brazilian side, Race and Perna both competing, or both qualifying through to HCT Buenos Aires. Last weekend when I was casting that with Lorinda, Race having a little bit more success than Perna did in that tournament, but again they are teammates, so they had the exact same identical lineup. It was cool, always cool to see them working together. And then on the Spanish side, they also have a couple of teammates, don't they? Dalesom and Akawanda, I believe, both on SK Gaming.
Yep.
So more than comfortable with working together, I would say.
Spain is one of these teams which has just really improved dramatically since the Hearthstone Global Games last year. A real winning country of the slight change in the rulings, where rather than just picking players that are popular in the community, we've only selected players from HCT points, and then they have been the players that have been voted between, which is why Akawanda is now in as one of the top players in the world, as well as one of the top players in Spain. We're going to take a look at the picks and bans, and I think you'll be a little bit surprised by just how similar these turn out to be, with Double Rogues banned up first, then both teams picking Druid and then Hunter, and then I think this ban is, yep, that's a match as well. Oh no, almost a match, sorry.
The Warrior and the Warlock, the first three letters are the same,
yeah.
So it's basically the same.
Basically the same thing, right? Same deck.
But you're right, very, very similar here, right up until the end. Only a very small difference with what Warrior for one side, Warlock for the other. But when you do look at the decks, it does make sense that it is so even all along the way, with the Quest Rogue on both sides, the real control killer deck at the moment. Still seeing tweets about it all the time. I believe Orange just tweeted out that he hit top 10 legend with it. Again, still busted as ever, it turns out. You can nerf that deck as much as you want. The Crystal Core is just absurd.
Yep, it is indeed. Let's take a look, though. This is the part where it all changes as we see how the matchups fall into place. First up, it's going to be Raze on the Control Priest versus Riku on the Aggro Mage. I think Brazil have definitely gotten the better end of the bargain here, as we then have Deathrattle Hunter versus Odd Warrior, which should be the Hunter favorite. Aggro Mage versus Deathrattle Hunter, which should be the Mage favorite. And in theory, that could just be a 3-0. If it doesn't end up being a 3-0, it's still looking okay for Brazil, though. They've got Mali Togwaggle Druid versus Control Priest, and then even Warlock versus malygos Druid, which I guess is Spain favored. So really, Spain are going to be wanting to get to that game 5.
Even then, I would say even Warlock is just not in that bad of a spot against the malygos Druids. They just often don't have enough removal for all of your threats, and you can win the game very quickly indeed. And even if you don't, if they don't kill you quickly enough, we know that Gul'dan can do some truly disgusting things.
Yes, absolutely. The amount of lifesteal on that hero power does just get a little bit absurd. Interesting to me that Brazil have been one of the few teams that have brought Mali Togwaggle Druid. A lot of the teams just bringing Mali Druid, the Togwaggle sort of forgotten. I believe Gaskin and Lorinda did cast a match where Mali Togwaggle was played earlier. We are very likely to see it again today, but let's go back a few steps. First up, Control Priest versus Aggro Mage. Derek, why is the Priest favored here?
I would say, well, I mean, the first reason is I agree with you, it is probably favored. You have so much removal here with the likes of Duskbreaker, the Northside Cleric for stall, the Wild Pyromancers, as well as possibly the Omega Medic, which I'm not sure if they are bringing in their list. Yep, one copy of Omega Medic as well. Oh no, that was the wrong side.
Oh, no, they're not.
They're not playing the
But getting to turn 10 is difficult anyway.
Exactly. Right? It's just a whole bunch of minions they can throw down and the removal. But we did see, however, yesterday, I believe, when it was Italy versus the Netherlands, a pretty decisive game being taken by the Netherlands on the Aggro Mage when they had their Luna just completely popping off, drawing so many cards throughout the series of that game. and the a Luneth as well, drawing a whole bunch of cards. And they basically realized in the later stages of the game, the only really good removal the priest had left was Psychic Scream, at which point they say, brilliant, you shuffle 6 cards into our deck, we'll just draw them over 2 turns and play them all over again.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, that game was pretty close, and the aggro mage only just managed to get the damage to win that one. Typically, the priest, thanks to cards like you said, like Duskbreaker, Wild Pyromancers, and Divine Hymns, they can keep the mage off of the board whilst keeping their health total strong. But as aggro mage can do, an early blowout turn with mana worms, etc., can just be game winning. As we see, there isn't the mana worm in the hand just yet, but Kirintor Mage is a good start. getting away the fireball and the shooting star and trying to get a secret and a mana worm would, I guess, be the dream for Riku here.
Yeah, going to be considering keeping the Kirintor Mage, because while it does obviously appear to be weak to the Duskbreaker, all of your minions are, and it is a very powerful minion to start hitting your opponent with, but when you're off the coin, you don't have a secret. Like you said, you just want the mana worm. That's really the best way to get your damage ramping up. Even something like a Luneth, though, if you can stick that on curve, just really gives you an actual consistent game plan to be winning this game. Because otherwise, your minions get removed piece by piece. You never actually get the damage in. Whereas if you Luneth, play a whole bunch of minions at once and force your opponent to Psychic Scream it away, you just draw them all back again.
Meanwhile, though, Race didn't have the exact opening hand he wanted. He got the Pyromancer, I guess, now, and he's got Powered Shield, so things are looking slightly better. Spain did keep the Kirintor Mage, but unfortunately, the hand hasn't fallen in their favor. They've got the Luneth. That's a big tool. But until then, they're not going to be doing all that much.
Yeah, and Luneth is obviously good in this matchup, like I said. But if you're not doing anything until turn 3, really, because Primordial Glyph doesn't really count, in terms of board development at least, you're, I think, going to be falling behind just to Race's development onto the board. Like a turn 4 Twilight Drake at the moment is looking very powerful. Pyromancer could be used to clear up a couple of minions with all these cheap spells as well.
Arcane Anomaly picked up not really any help whatsoever from these early turns. Do you think Spain uses a ping here, actually uses the glyph to try and get something to do? There's no spell they're going to want to play this turn, though. That's the issue.
Well, their mana is spoken for the next few turns, however. If they get any secret to go with the Primordial Glyph, it's better than nothing. I agree that you play it here because you're pretty clearly going Kirintor Mage, Cosmic Anomaly, pray they don't have Duskbreaker, Kirintor something.
I'm sure there is a Discover going on right now, somewhere, in this wacky world of Hearthstone.
As the glyph hath whiffed.
If it could do that, I don't think it would be appearing in these decks.
Maybe that is just the very, very small text in it. It's just that 1 in every billion times you play it, it just does nothing, and this is the first time in Hearthstone history it's happened.
It's in the Hearthstone Advanced rulebook, yeah.
Yeah, it's like my theory that there is actually a 5th Shaman totem, but through the biggest mathematical anomaly in history, no one's rolled it yet.
Is it still just an even chance with the other ones, though?
Yeah, just perfectly even chance.
France has been eliminated from the Hearthstone Global Games by Portugal. What a... I want to echo what Lorinda said earlier. It's not so much an upset because Portugal are a strong team, but the fact that France are eliminated, that's just shocking to me.
I am truly shocked as well. Such a strong caliber of player, and the fact that they had to get more HCT points to qualify for HGG than they did to qualify for playoffs.
Right.
When in Europe this season you had to get, 39 points to qualify for playoffs? It's absolutely absurd how much work those French players have been putting in. It's also worth saying now, they did have a go at us for not choosing them.
I was about to say.
Yeah, we didn't choose them as our prediction. And you know what? Correctly so.
I am personally very pleased that I didn't choose France.
Yeah, exactly.
Mana when picked up would usually be fantastic, but the fact that it would mean passing up on the Kirintor Mage turn maybe makes that a little bit awkward.
Yeah, you develop, what, a 2-3 on this turn that grows to a 3-3 at some point in the future? Mystery question mark. I think getting the 4-3 down is a little bit more consistent of a game plan.
Yeah, I don't really like those mystery question marks either. Still got a second Kirintor Mage for if the next draw is a secret. In fact, if the next draw is a secret, the Mana Worm Kirintor Mage counterspell, for example, would be great. I guess there is still the coin in hand, so counterspell's not that great.
Yeah, and you just know for Race here there are no secrets. They didn't play the Arcanologist on turn 2 as well, which they definitely would have done instead of Glyph vast majority of the time. So you're not really too afraid of holding back the coin here. Maybe they get counterspell at a later date, but it's far from the worst of your concerns.
What sort of mind game or bluff would that be to play the Kirintor Mage without the secret so that the coin gets played and then go, haha, here's the second one and here's my secret?
It would be a terrible one, I'm going to go ahead and say.
Yeah. Don't do that.
As for Race, it is a really rough turn. Do you go coin into Twilight Drake and then just accept that you're doing nothing really for the next few turns, apart from Power Word Shield and Hero Power? Or do you just tank this 4 damage this turn and the next turn, leading up for maybe a coin Psychic Scream? You do kind of have to go for this, I think, because if you don't start locking down board, you will be taking too much damage. But you've also just played the only dragon in your hand, so a top deck of Dustbreaker, which would have been the best top deck possible next turn, becomes not very good. Which is clearly why Race took such a long time to coin out a 4-6 on turn 3, which is clearly an amazing play, because it just limits everything else he can do so drastically.
It's worth pointing out, I guess, that this Control Priest is one of those decks that has included not a single card from the Boomsday Project. It seems as though Priest is the class that seems to be getting away with that the most. It's the class that hasn't really had any new tools put in what is arguably still the best Priest deck.
It's quite a tight deck list though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not that much room for tech decisions, and it really does seem like Omega Medic, as a one-of only, is really the only card that's being included.
Maybe Giggling Inventor sometimes.
Oh, yeah, sure. As for Race, in the vast majority of other matchups, you would have been very happy with this hand. You had Draw, you had Minion Presence, you've now found Anduin. But this is not that matchup. You just want removal. As well, I doubt Wild Pyro will come down on this turn. It's a nice way to start pulling back board control. If you can combo it with another Power Word Shield, or any other cheap spell for that matter.
It's kind of strange how slow this game has been, actually, with Riku not drawing his early cards until turn 3, I guess, which is still quite early, but too late to be playing Mana Worms on curve. And Race not really having any answers. Double Mana Worm now, but not a single spell in hand.
I mean, this is usually the perfect kind of hand against Priest. You don't really want spells, right? Because that's for dealing with their minions, which they don't play all too many of.
Sure.
You just want stuff to throw onto the board to start killing them, and then follow up with the damage spells to face. But now for Spain, what choice do you have here, really, apart from going Mana Worm, Frostbolt, Ping?
Ugh.
You can go really wide on the board.
Is it better to just Frostbolt the Twilight Drake and not ping it? The problem is it can get healed back up again. A Divine Hymn would be devastating after that.
Yeah.
However, there is certainly a benefit to putting both Mana Worms on the board before the Frostbolt.
Like, and also, if you think you just lose to Dustbreaker, you could just go Kirintor double Mana Worm, because your opponent can only kill off one of them, then you follow up with all the Frostbolty goodness. They've clearly deduced, though, we're just playing the Mana Worm. This is happening every single time, then we'll worry about the rest of the nonsense. Yeah.
As much as it is better to plan out your entire turn before you start making it, sometimes it does make that decision a little bit easier. If you know that one part of the plan is happening 100% of the time, you play that and it just sort of makes it easier to visualize the rest of the turn. And probably easier to talk it through as well in this team-based environment.
Definitely. So for Brazil, if they can find themselves... well, actually, no spells off the Shadow Visions would do it. Power Word Shield gets them close, but no clear on this turn for the Mana Worm, which isn't the biggest tragedy. It's not all too big quite yet. But they are really going to want to find themselves the copy of Ooze, which I have to imagine is in the deck.
I must consider.
I would imagine incorrectly, however. No weapon destruction in this deck whatsoever for Brazil. So this Aluneth, as Riku will know, could just run away with this game completely.
No Sorcerer's Apprentice has been played yet by the Mage. That's very, very good after the Aluneths come down. Amazing, the Mana Worm sticks, and it's just probably going to trade because the Aluneth has to come down this turn, and again, there's still no spells to make that decision. So that's made the decision for Riku. There's no missiles, no Cinderstorm to attempt. This is it, it's Aluneth. This game isn't going to last much longer.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Even playing around the Cabal Shadow Priest on the following turn, as these are them spells that Spain is looking for, most certainly. Double Arcane Missiles, if those go all face, that's exactly where you're looking for them to go.
He can guarantee it, right? Anomaly, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Shooting Star, Missiles, should guarantee that most of them go face. Skulking Geist does have more than 3 health, and actually just removes them from the hand completely. Okay, that was very, very good timing on the Skulking Geist there.
Yeah, couldn't really have worked out any better, right? They draw 3 cards and they lose 3 cards off of the Geist. The Aluneth has done nothing on this turn for Riku.
6 mana, do nothing? I don't know, Derek. Aluneth doesn't seem that good to me.
However, for Spain, while they do have... that was clearly a bit of a blow for them on this turn. They lose all the benefit that Aluneth gave them on that turn. There's still not actually all too much that Brazil can do to this board, because Psychic Scream could come down after Riku goes super wide here, which is, you know, fine. Delays the game in the immediate. But the more cards you shuffle back into the deck, it's not a long-term solution. They will draw those cards again before the game is over, every time.
We have many secrets.
We do see Spain playing a whole lot of minions on this turn, leaving themselves nice and vulnerable to Dustbreaker, but we can clearly see, and I think Spain will anticipate as well, it's just not there.
Not sure if they want to play that Sorcerer's Apprentice, though. The card is so good at forcing these spells out much cheaper. Would have been great with the 1 mana spells, but it's going to have to be 2 mana or more now. But yeah, Frostbolts and Fireballs are great with the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And also great with that Cosmic Anomaly, which is still sitting there waiting to get its big blowout turn.
So Race here obviously going to be afraid of a counterspell on this turn, and taking 7 mana to do nothing and losing one of the best cards you could have of clearing off the board is a bit too risky, I think. So I do imagine some other kind of spell will come down on this turn. As we all get a lesson as to why, unless you have a very specific reason, you shouldn't put Mind Blast in your deck. It's not a good card.
What are you talking about? It blasted Riku's mind.
Race has now just won the game with 1 card. It's completely broken.
If only you could run 6 copies of a single card. And draw them all at once. And have 12 mana.
Yeah. Doing what he can here for Brazil. He knows now that this is not the counterspell, but I think we can clearly see there's a decent chance that a counterspell will, however, come down on this turn for Spain.
Yeah, the Mass Dispel is a little bit frustrating for Riku. The fact that he's only got 2 damage on the board and that Mana Worm isn't going to be growing at all. It's a shame. This chip damage is invaluable for Riku at the moment. He doesn't really want to develop either of these minions just yet.
It's fine. Riku has the anti-silence, the reverse silence card that everyone's been asking for in Psychic Screaming it back to your deck, drawing it again, and playing it again.
The reverse silence card is in his opponent's.
Yeah, it was there all along, just no one thought to look.
Well, what you're saying isn't actually wrong, so I can't...
I mean, it is wrong. I'll get that in there ahead of you there, buddy. It's complete nonsense.
But if played, it does reverse the silence effect and allow Riku to play them again. I don't know, Derek, you're making perfect sense to me.
And that's why it is complete nonsense.
This is looking like a hand that I can get behind.
Oh yeah, and for Brazil, because of that Aluneth, because there is no weapon destruction, none of their removal lines up well anymore. They need those Duskbreakers, because otherwise all their removal is too big. You don't want to go for Psychic Scream. You don't want to go Holy Fire, especially because you now know that there's a counterspell in play.
The counterspell makes things really awkward. Race has to play one of these 2-mana spells and then Holy Fire the Anomaly. That is the only way he can clear it this turn.
And
surely
you kind of have to clear it,
he has
right?
to clear it. There's no question about that.
It's nuts. Otherwise, you don't even want to play Anduin. Like, Anduin Alexstrasza is kind of what I was looking at to maybe try and close out the game, but I just think you die every time.
It's going to be this Holy Fire. Even if Brazil had any minions, then the Explosive Runes is now dealing 8 damage with the Anomaly on the board. So Spain really did lock Brazil's turn down there. As the second Sorcerer's Apprentice is drawn,
You just go.
if that Anomaly was still alive, this would probably be lethal somehow.
It would be surprisingly close, I would say.
Depending on what came from the glyph, yeah, I mean, the 7 damage Cinderstorm, the 2 8 damage Fireballs, and the Frostbolt, and the 5 damage Frostbolt is...
Well, you wouldn't be able to play all of them, right? Even with Double Apprentice. Would you? Honor,
Yes,
you would.
you
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, all
And you'd be able to play
Oh my
Glyph and potentially get another Fireball, which would also be playable.
What a terrifying prospect.
Yeah. Even so, Spain could play all of those spells now. Starting with the Glyph makes sense to me. Going to hold back one Sorcerer's Apprentice, okay.
It's still good with this hand, right? If they do draw Dustbreaker off the top, you have a contingency plan. As the full Antonidas combo comes into effect for Riku, all they're missing is Antonidas.
It's... Okay. It must have been tempting to just go now. Play the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Molten Reflection, Arcane Intellect, and just jam all of this damage to the face. There is a second Cosmic Anomaly in the deck, so I guess the plan is draw that, then go. Could even Molten Reflection the Cosmic Anomaly, actually.
Yeah, holding back pretty big time. Like you said, the Cosmic Anomaly, I think, is really what they're waiting for. And also just trying to make their opponent's Psychic Scream this. They don't want to go so big that, like I said, if Dustbreaker comes off the top, they don't have any pressure afterwards. But they also do want to go big enough to force their opponent to scream, because Psychic Scream here for Riku is just good. Race doesn't do anything on that turn then. And again, the minions get shuffled back in to be drawn once again.
Yeah. It's kind of weird the way that how Psychic Scream sort of acts like a Vanish here. No more than that. How is Brazil winning this game?
Well, as so many victories do involve, I imagine it is going to involve a certain Dusky Boy. Because after they Psychic Scream this, which...
They're going to call Orange to help?
They kind of have to. I mean, it's not a bad idea. Strictly against the rules, I will remind you.
It's actually a very bad idea.
Yeah, it is a very bad idea.
Doing well, gain 5, but don't get any more healing other than Divine Hymn.
I mean, they probably just don't have mana to Hero Power phase for the rest of this game. This is maybe hoping that there's... Actually, no, this is just not hoping for reverse lethal. It never happens.
They still have a Divine Hymn in the deck, and they still have a Shadow Visions in hand. So potentially they do have 3 hymns, and they also have Alexstrasza. Not sure how much Alexstrasza is going to do, as chances are Riku will have more than 15 damage for lethal at some point. I say at some point, after this turn, he'll have drawn his entire deck, so... I mean, that will be the reverse lethal, won't it? It will be due to fatigue, not due to Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah. So while there's no lethal available quite yet, there's like 15, I think, as I count it.
Anomaly plus
Cosmic Anomaly
Reflection
will help to swing that around. Is that now just lethal on this turn?
4 spell damage, 9 damage Cinderstorm,
so sick.
10 damage Fireball, and 7 damage Frostbolt. Yeah, that is definitely lethal. Wow.
That's like basically the Antonidas combo, but like Babby version.
Babby version.
My first Antonidas combo.
Wow, well, Riku took that one away, and it certainly wasn't easy, and let's be realistic here. There was no Dustbreaker drawn at any point by Spain. So, by Brazil. So that wasn't making the matchup any easier for them.
They just didn't get any of the cards you're really looking for, right? Any of the mid-game stuff that you can throw down. Even with Skulking Geist to destroy perfectly 3 spells there. The Arcane Missiles, which were pretty good burns as well at that point. You know, that would have been a lot of damage with the Cosmic Anomaly at a later date. Still just never quite came together because, like you said, the removal wasn't there. Psychic Scream was never truly an option because it was just delaying the inevitable. It was worth considering going for it at the end there over the Anduin because it did clearly so quickly go so wrong for them.
It was the Sorcerer's Apprentice's effect. It wasn't even the attacks.
Yeah.
But the fact that that was still sitting there and able to just go with the Arcane Intellect during the Anomaly and then just get lethal, it was incredible. Still an uphill battle for Spain, though, I would say, as we take a look at the coming matchup. It's going to be Deathrattle Hunter for Brazil versus Odd Warrior for Spain. And it's not really changed since before the expansion. Deathrattle Hunter, the eggs, the Deathstalker Rexar, the cubes, these tools are just so powerful against a deck that sort of relies on cards like Brawl to keep the board empty.
This is, however, a matchup that I've seen debated on Twitter a little bit, with Odd Warrior being such a popular deck on ladder at the moment. A lot of the pros, like Viper, Wagoos, all giving it a go at the moment and trying to come up with the best list possible, as I'm sure many others are throwing their hat in the ring as well. But I saw Gallon, a player who's been playing this deck, the Odd Warrior, a fair bit as well, saying he thinks that the Odd Warrior is not that unfavoured. Definitely coming into it with an uphill battle, but he pegged it at about 60-40 for the Hunter.
That's really close.
If, however, the Odd Warrior is built in the right way, which I think for him said, for Gallon's perspective, involved having a lot of owls and a lot of MC techs.
There's an owl.
There's an owl, but no MC techs. So it is not really the cards you're looking for in this matchup to be able to take their big minions and silence the most important ones like the cubes and the eggs.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky for Spain indeed. I've also seen these debates. I've seen arguments from both sides.
Yeah, the other way as well.
Some people have been saying, it's not as bad. And then I've seen other people that have been saying, no, it's impossible for the Odd Warrior. I don't know what these crazy people are talking about. And you can definitely see their argument there, because the moment Deathstalker Rexar comes down across the board, it's just infinite value, and it's not slow value either. What happens when you put some of these beasts together is somewhat ridiculous. We saw yesterday Turner set up this 2-turn lethal by having a big attack stealth minion, cubing it, and then also getting Tundra Rhino in hand. Thank you. And then next turn he was able to play the Tundra Rhino, play dead, and then hit face with the big stealth minions. As it happened, the Quest Rogue had lethal, and he never quite managed to pull off the combo. But the fact that it was even possible is quite frightening, I think.
Yeah, and like you say, Deathstalker Rexar is really the crux of the matchup, isn't it? Your main starting win condition is obviously trying to go cubes, play deads, make a whole bunch of 5/5s or bigger if you have high mains and king crushers in the deck. But when that fails, which it very possibly will, like we said, if there are the owls and the MC techs and a couple of timely brawls as well, perhaps, then you follow up with Rexar and you just spam that button every single turn. You probably run the warrior out of stuff and start to chip away their health total. But while the arguments go one way or the other, given the way this deck is teched, and given how I perceive the matchup to be, my experience on ladder with the deck, I would have to put Deathrattle Hunter at a pretty big advantage here for Brazil.
Yes, I completely agree. In terms of new cards, obviously, Double Spider Bomb, Giggle Inventor for the Deathrattle Hunter. That's completely standard nowadays. Seems to be the fully optimized list. There was a brief period where a lot of the players were playing the mechanical Dragon Whelp and a couple of the other mech cards, Ziliax, etc. But and the Fireworks tech as well, the little Hunter Procker Mex Deathrattle. But it's fallen out of favour, and it seems to be that the old list with these couple new cards in is the big bad at the moment. Odd Warrior obviously does run a lot of the new cards, but you know this, we've seen a lot of Odd Warrior over the last few days. This one isn't running the Collider weapon, Super Collider, which is different, probably makes it worse against this matchup as well.
Yeah, it could be good in this matchup, actually, if they go for cube into play dead or whatever and spawn a couple of guys, you can then smack them against each other. I think it's maybe, like you were saying about the Hunter, not necessarily the optimized list yet. I think that's maybe getting a little bit full of ourselves as a community to say we've cracked it already. Because if you remember back just a couple of months pre-expansion, when no one was playing Egg Hunter at all, people were playing Recruit Hunter with the Seeping Oozlings, and that was seen as the anti-control deck. You just play that. That was the only one that was knocking about. And then people started putting eggs in and realized, hey, we can just kind of shrink this deck way down. We're allowed to put cubes in again because we're not playing Seeping Oozlings. We can play the eggs as well. It's way better in the early game, and it still does disgusting stuff in the late game because you're playing Katharina Winterwisp, and at the end of the day, you're really playing like good Deathrattle cards, 29 of them, plus Rexar.
Yeah.
That's the deck, as is all Hunter decks at the moment. You do Hunter stuff, then you play Rexar. It's such a good Death Knight.
And that version of Deathrattle Hunter before the expansion came out, that can't have been popularized more than about a month before the expansion. That was a really late deck to reach the meta.
We are, however, ready to jump into the game. Respectable starting hand if there were a couple of Deathrattles in hand for Brazil. The Playdead and Terrascale Stalker can be very powerful, but I would have to imagine they get thrown away here in favor of Deathstalker Rexar, which you definitely want as quick as you can possibly get it, and the eggs, and possibly cubes as well.
The earlier the better, for certain. The Hunter isn't winning this matchup with the hero power. The Hunter is never winning this matchup with that hero power versus that hero power. You know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, no Rexar drawn. However, Spider Bomb's okay, I guess. Cube is one of the most powerful cards in this matchup.
Like, I mean, it's fine. Like, the Spider Bomb probably doesn't do anything here. There are so many cards that are just meant for other matchups that don't matter. It's like when you're playing, you know, big Spell Mage mirrors or something, and you're just throwing away removal a lot of the time. Actually, no, that's not a great comparison because the removal's good in that matchup. But you know what I mean? There are matchups where certain cards just don't do anything because it's not meant for that. As right from the get-go, Jacobo showing here, you want to be drawing cards in this matchup. He could go for the late game fatigue plan, but Neves here is probably going to be forced into drawing with tracking a lot of the time, and you want to make sure in the immediate that you can survive their onslaught, because if you don't, it doesn't matter how many cards you draw.
Spain actually have a very aggressive hand here with the second Town Crier, which will draw the second Rabid Worgen or Ziliax, and Darius Crowley already there. Do you think there's any chance that Jacobo could win the game with just with an aggressive blowout start?
It's possible. Darius Crowley is one hell of a card. I'd have to imagine with Spider Bomb and now Hunter's Mark as well, that gets a little bit more difficult for Spain to do. But it's possible. Well, actually, okay, I don't think it's actually possible for them to win on board, but what they will be able to do is take some value trades, play all these minions, which means in the early game, they don't have to play their removal. They can just use Darius Crowley, Rabid Worgens, maybe even the measly little Town Criers to start swinging this board back so that in the later stages of the game, Reckless Flurry, Shield Slam, Brawl, Big Game Hunter, all those removal cards can be used on Rexar Beasts, which is when you can start to really fall behind.
Brazil just talking through this Spider Bomb, I guess, at the moment, wondering if there's actually a better time to play it or not. Just here, where it can value trade against a 1-2, and then maybe deal with a minion if Spain play one. Yeah, okay. Now Spain are going to have to just play Rabid Worgen, I guess, trade into it, and hope that it deals with the 1-2.
Really? The Town Crier hero power did deal with it technically from what you were currently seeing. Like, you're weak to Flanking Strike then, right? At which point the Spider Bomb survives and you can't really play Darius Crowley. So if there was a Flanking Strike, that did go kind of wrong. But being able to trade both your Town Criers into a Spider Bomb looked like it would have felt kind of good there. Mainly because you get to save the Rabid Worgen instead of just a 1-2.
I know we said that Super Collider might be good in this matchup, but actually maybe Gorehal's better just because that 7 burst damage, again, paired with a somewhat aggressive start, could actually just represent lethal at some point.
Are we going back to the good old Alex Strasser into Gorehal Control Warrior days?
Yep.
How we missed them.
Then you Grom and get them.
We didn't even need it, right? You got like Alex Strasser charge Gorehal.
Oh, all right.
Ooh, I'm talking old school.
You're talking Molten Giants charging to the face.
Oh, the Pandas, the Giants. The good old days.
Hello, hello, hello. Those Annoyatrons could just be buffing Darius Crawley. Which is fine, because there's still the Hunter's Mark in hand. For Brazil.
What now?
God, Spain are wishing that those Annoyatrons aren't mechs right now. And that the Town Criers are mechs.
So you want Robo Criers and Annoyo Johns instead of Annoyatrons. They're just people.
Sounds like a great card. Come on, Blizzard, print that.
Annoyo John.
Annoyo John. Put my face on the card.
That would get the job done. But still for Spain, not the easiest job here, because they need to be considering not just what they're doing on this turn to clear up the board as much as possible, but how important is it to break through here as quick as possible? What is their opponent going to be doing on the next turn? If it's high main on turn 6 is the most obvious play, what's their counterplay? They have no silence, so I guess they'd have to go Shield Slam, which is a possibility. Then they can start value trading with Darius Crowley still. It's looking fine here, basically, for Neves. Oh, sorry, for Jacob.
Yeah, it's just the fact the Hunter's Mark is in the hand makes life very awkward. I guess Hunter's Mark and trading in the 2-1 to Darius and trading Annoyatron into a 1-1 is the play.
Yep.
3-4 Witchwood Grizzly? Sure. Sure, why not?
And what, I mean, I said it was looking fine for Jacob. From his perspective, yeah, he's looking all right. Even here, this is fine. It's just a 3-4. Katharina can come down. Cube on the either, King Crush or High Main, both of which are absurdly good here.
Yeah.
If you get one Terror Scale, one Play Dead, even just another Cube, you're looking to be in such a good spot.
But on the plus side, Derek, before all of that, we might be about to witness Dynamatic doing what Dynamatic does best.
I think you're getting a little bit too excited here. It's killing a minion. It's good. I'll give you that.
I mean, it's basically the same as Valspine here, isn't it?
It's actually literally exactly the same as Valspine in every conceivable way.
No, because you don't have to coin it out. You don't have to combo it.
Ah.
Point Falcone.
I was being facetious there, Falcone.
I know. It's also a mech. Come back to me when you have a plant tribal card.
No, I do hope they don't add plants as a tribe to the game, because that would be pretty underwhelming, actually. There's a couple of good plants in the game, but it would mostly be a lot of 0 attack minions, I think.
Hang on. I just had a message from Blizzard. They now have to change the next expansion.
Oh, wow.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks a bunch. Well, a mech stuck to the board, so Ziliax could come down, go face. It does deal 6 damage immediately. It's still not great, though, is it?
Yeah, as long as you're clearing off the high main here, I like whatever play you're going for. You could consider going for the Shield Slam before the Gorehound because you want your armor nice and high, but you have the hero power. You're getting up to a decent armor total no matter what you do, basically. Because Cube interplated on the high main would basically just be lights out, I think, at this point. Even with double Reckless Flurry, you'd be spending so many resources on dealing with all those lions and hyenas and cubes. Oh my.
Katharina, though, is just so problematic. Again, what's left? 1 high main and 1 King Crush?
Yeah.
Guaranteed very powerful beast.
When you say Katharina's problematic, you make it sound like she's got slightly old-fashioned opinions on Twitter, rather than she's going to smack you in the face with a giant dinosaur.
Dinosaurs are problematic.
Oh, but there it is, King Crush off the top.
It's still going to be high main, Derek.
No, high main was drawn on the last turn. There's only one high main. Oh, no, sorry, one of the for Spain. Oh, no, it's Brazil, yeah. There's only one high main. Is that every beast?
Both
Witchwood Grizzlies have been played.
That is every beast, yeah. Confirmed.
Oh, those were the worst 2 draws for Neves possible. You don't care about the Deathrattle on Katharina. As long as you're summoning one of those minions from your deck, you're happy. I mean, you obviously would prefer to have both of them in the deck, but... Okay, well, this is what Spain needs. This is their chance to start pulling things back.
And now I'm just looking at sort of a dead set of discovers there. Okay, cool, an egg. It's an egg that can't be activated this turn, though. Like, is this just going to be where? Just Grizzly number 2?
Yeah.
Another 5-mana 3/4? What is it with the 5-mana 3/4s this game? What's with all the Valspines players?
Yeah, this is literally just Valspine Slayer as well.
Literally.
Literally.
And figuratively. But mostly literally.
Yeah. Spiritually. Economically.
Financially. And philosophically.
Just a Valspine through and through. And for Spain, obviously here, they want to be clearing off these minions because the second they leave a decent-sized minion on board, in terms of its raw stats at least, cube into any kind of Deathrattle activator can just be thrown onto the board, and then they have to start using the Big Daddy removal cards, which they do not want to do yet. And this hand for Neves is like every good card in this matchup, but it just doesn't line up, right? It's not doing anything yet. You can King Crush something, the face or the back of here, that doesn't do anything.
The ooze is pretty great.
You do want to ooze, yeah, that is a nice pickup. But then what do? Like, ooze Devilsaur Egg,
Yeah.
take 8 on the following, or take 7 damage on the following turn?
I was going to ask how much Brazil care about taking damage, but they actually do. They've still not played Rexar. There's no lifesteal minions coming anytime soon. So yeah, just slam King Crush, make the value trade. And Jacob's okay with that.
Yeah, you got a multitude of options, right? You probably don't tank the hit.
Well, I mean, Rabid Wargun is fine.
Yeah, Ziliax heals you back up, right?
Ziliax is fine here, but probably better later.
I mean, it's probably going to gain you at least 6 health anyway, right? Which is
That's true.
good enough for the moment. But even then, attacking in here, you take 8 damage, you go down to 15, hero power back up to 9, you got the Ziliax, you're probably not dying anytime soon.
Drop Giggling Inventor. Just attack, tank up Giggling Inventor's not that bad.
As long as it's cleared up here, I think there's like, any way of going about it cannot be that bad.
I must choose.
He goes with that play. This will be cleared up by the Mossy Horror, but it just doesn't matter too much. I guess Brazil could go egg Mossy Horror for the power play now and maybe plan on cubing the 5/5 later. It's still not ideal though. Are there even any better cube targets in the deck though, or are the only better cube targets now from Deathstalker Rexar?
I mean, yeah, it's Deathstalker Rexar or 5/5s, right? That's pretty much as good as it gets.
Yep. I guess Katharina's a 6/6.
For 8 mana, wow.
If it sticks, it doesn't matter, does it?
As now for Spain, they still have taken a big old beating in the meanwhile. Despite their pretty incredible ability to stay ahead in this game so far, even with Brazil finding some very good cards, Cube, Egg, Katharina, Highmane, King Crush. Obviously, you would rather summon those off of Katharina, but it's still not a terrible hand that Neves has had. But no Rexar, making all the difference in the world.
What now?
Now that Mossy Horror's been played, Jacobo should be somewhat safe just dropping the second Giggling Inventor. Gonna go with a 4 attack Ziliax here. Okay. Sure, why not?
Yeah, you probably want to save the Giggling Inventor when there's a bit more attack on board,
Yep.
right?
This is healing for at least 8.
Yeah, if they have a whole bunch of stuff, this still blocks very easily
That's a good counter.
the Mossy Horror. I mean, it deals with the minion on board. Neves kind of needs to think, is that actually what he wants to do? Like, he needs to start playing stuff onto the board.
It's like you said earlier, it's like he's drawn all of the best cards, but like in the worst possible order, in such a way where they're just not doing anything. I don't think I've ever seen Deathrattle Hunter perform like this before.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like saying, you know, in the old Barnes and Yasharaj Hunter, saying Barnes and Yasharaj are some of the best cards in the deck, and he's drawn both of them and is still losing. Like, it's recruit. You need to be able to recruit them off the minion, or it doesn't work like that. That was a mocking impression of myself, by the way, not you.
Okay. It's too late, Derek.
You could tell from the fact that it sounded stupid. It's somehow oddly alluring.
I mean, a 5 mana 5/5 is probably about as good as it gets for Spain here. They can drop that, play the Rabid Worgen, value trade the Mossy Horror and tank up.
That doesn't seem bad. A very good base play for this turn, and then you can try and find something better. Again, Giggling Inventor you probably want to save when there's more attack on the board, so it's not being Divine Shields killed off by low attack values.
We're back in that position where both players are just looking for their hero cards.
And if that carries on as a stalemate, Spain is in a really, really good spot, because their hero power is so much better than their opponents in the meanwhile. Doesn't even come close.
Especially relatively speaking, like compared to how this matchup usually goes. Spain are doing great. Do they need to deal with the egg? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, Giggling instead of Elise does make the pack a little bit later, which is probably not your biggest concern right now. Stops any damage coming through to face. Yeah, I still don't think I would actually have hated Elise there instead. No Blood Knights in either deck, so you don't need to worry about that, right?
But now Brazil can actually start cubing things if they want to. They could cube the egg, which makes any board clear from Spain kind of awkward.
Kind of though, but then they're left with 2 eggs afterwards, which is rubbish. Like you don't want to cube eggs at this point. You want to cube big minions.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you said, even Katharina with no Battle Cry or Deathrattle effect is a better cube than the egg at this point.
Again, it's just a 6/6 versus a, well, I guess 0/3, but versus a 5/5 as well. The 6/6 wins.
Yeah.
It's just that Brazil can't afford to spend mana to put the Katharina on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, they pay 8 mana for a 6/6, it probably gets cleared, the egg probably gets cleared as well, and then their cubes are doing literally nothing. Whereas here, you know, maybe the egg stick, they can cube it again on the next turn. It's very low value plays comparative to what they could be doing, but it's the best they got.
So in response, Jacobo is going to want to make the highest possible value plays to outgreed the Hunter at the moment. That seems to be the game state that we've ended up in. And Stonehill Defender is, I guess, the way to go about doing that. Just grab the highest mana cost taunt available.
If you you could go completely crazy here as Spain and clear off everything by going like Shield Slam the cube, kill off both the eggs with your minions, then Reckless Flurry, which does mean they have no more like cube or play dead targets from where you're sat. I agree that's probably a little bit of an overcommittal, because this cube on its own, even after it dies, isn't doing that much.
Like you said, it's just eggs. All it does is prevent Jacobo from using another board clear after that point. Unless he has 2 to play on the same turn, in which case, hey, he can do it again. Just gonna leave the cube there. And now the Elise comes down, and it is protected as well. That 5/5 should be able to hit the face a couple of times.
Yeah, this is just, you know, a battering ram at this point. Kills Brazil sooner rather than later. Jacob, like you said, he just wants to start killing his opponent, get the game over, because eventually Deathstalker Rexar will be found, and he wants to be killing his opponent before then.
Does he have to cube the Spider Bomb? Is that where we're at this game now, or is it just Katharina hero power?
He doesn't have to do anything. He's a free man.
Oh, my apologies. Sorry, Nevs, for implying that he's not a free man. I don't know what's going on anymore, Derek.
Yeah, it's just looking kind of dire for Brazil.
Is this going to be the second unfavourable win in a row for Spain?
They're really knocking them down, right? the mage was. I mean, I think we might have to reevaluate if you like hard mull for a Luna.
Yeah,
you can get yourself in a pretty good spot,
especially with no weapon removal.
Yeah. That's just like probably a fine matchup, I would say, if not slightly unfavoured. But this one has been a really strong display from Jacob.
Yeah, cubing the spider bomb, as I said. It's another 4-6 on the board. I mean, sure, that can do something. These draws aren't good from Spain anymore. He doesn't want double Reckless Flurry and Brawl right now. He wants damage.
Yeah, and you know, these 4-6s are not nothing. You don't really want to kill them off because then you're facing spiders and eggs.
So cheap, rubbishy taunts is probably the correct answer.
Oh, Dire on Hatchling feels like a pretty good answer to me, though.
Yep, another minion that Nevs can trade the cubes into, but they don't die, so great.
Jacob could just be thinking here, you just play this down and keep going face with everything.
I think so.
It's not outside the realms of possibility that it delivers lethal. You're dealing 9 on this turn. But that's a lot of damage.
What now?
And what are you doing elsewise? You're trading? That's not really that good. I guess if you trade into the spidery cube, it stops them from going like play dead on it and summoning a whole bunch of spiders, which is kind of bad. But I think getting out the damage to face, trying to close out the game is more valuable.
It's not quite set up lethal just yet. They're 2 damage off of lethal next turn. But play dead is interesting because playing dead on the cube that has the spider bombs suddenly allows Nevs to really start clearing up this board, but not until next turn. That's where it gets awkward. Just because he has no way of sacrificing these cubes. Because those taunts are so weak.
Yeah, they're just really doing the perfect job, aren't they? And for Spain, looking at their deck list, do they have no more Gorehowl? So I guess the best top decks they're looking at the moment are cards like Dr. Boom to start getting that 3 damage hero power rolling. Shield block because it draws you through to another card. Like, there's no cards that do damage in this deck, really. So this onslaught that they're going for here is pretty ragtag and could still be stopped fairly easily by Neves if a timely Deathstalker Rexar were found.
I mean, Spain have 4 damage off lethal this turn. Because I'm just going to throw everything into the pot. Okay. No way of picking up lethal this turn. There's no way of dealing more than 3 damage from this hero power, but Dr. Boom gets played here, right?
I think so. You can look at Brawl into trying to clear off the board. You could obviously kill off the spidery cube first and then just try and destroy everything here.
Wait, do you mean the eggy cube? The cube with the eggs in?
No, you kill off the egg with the spiders in, right? Because you don't want
the egg with the spiders in?
Yeah.
The egg with the spiders in.
Oh, the cube
so
with the spiders in. Sorry. Cube with you kill off the cube with the spiders in, and then you brawl because you don't want the eggs to activate.
Oh, sure, because then the eggs just sit on the board. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Which is worth considering, but if you go for Dr. Boom here and push everything face, you can still follow up with a clear on the following turn, and you've potentially just pushed even more damage through the face as the ray gun is found.
1 damage off lethal right now.
Or is it Zap Cannon? I can't exactly remember. The Pew Pew McPew Pew gun.
And Zap Cannon, there you go. The Pew Pew is definitely correct, though. And now Spain need 1 damage. The problem is only one of the hero powers allows him to deal damage to the face, and that is the Zap Cannon.
And
1 in 5 every turn.
Yeah, Brazil will just clear up the board here very, very easily, whilst also keeping a lot of damage on the board. Jacob does have a multitude of board clears here.
He does, so he's not under any immediate threat for lethal. As soon as Rexar gets drawn by
Neves,
this game
that's the draw.
flip-flops.
Neves, if you think through it, will realize there are literally no charge minions in the deck, or anything that can go face from this point on, as I don't believe there's a Fiery War Axe in the deck. Nope. No other minions, no other weapons at all.
The only weapon is the 1 copy of Gorehowl.
I guess maybe it could be Elise pack into something, but you probably want to save this back because the much more likely scenario is they clear the board and you follow up with Giggling.
Yep. Shield block just probably doesn't get played here, does it? It just gets held for a Reckless Flurry later. Unless they want to Reckless Flurry now.
Yeah, Reckless Flurry is worth considering here, right? Because you clear off every minion, you're left with 2 eggs, 2 spiders. You can then send your 3 annoying little robots. Or actually, you would just not attack at all with them, right? Because then your opponent doesn't actually have the resources to kill off all 3 of them. And you demand they do something. Obviously, a Mega Assembly, even more impressive.
I don't think there are any mechs with charge, are there?
No.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Yeah, I've got to be honest there for Jacob. I think I would have preferred holding back on the mechs, right? Because your opponent has to trade with them unless they play exactly a taunt. And you very potentially just threaten lethal next turn.
Oh, there's Deathstalker Exar
Wow.
for Brazil. Okay. Well, they're going to gain 5 armor. And then 1 more Zap Cannon will not be lethal. It will have to be 2 Zap Cannons. So now, Jacobo is going to need to try and get himself on the board.
He most assuredly is. Beryllium Nullify will do a pretty good job of that. And for Brazil here, Plated Beetle is very nice to get their armor total up, but Crackling Razormaw is probably the better minion if you are looking to get some lifesteal as well, which we can see Brazil did find. Maybe, however, they're saying, we're not actually under pressure anymore. We need to start killing our opponent, which means Stranglethorn Tiger. Ah.
Goes for armor and lifesteal. Armor and lifesteal. Not bad at all. Brilliant Nullifier plus the Eternium Rover, though, does stick a 4 attack minion on the board that's not going anywhere fast.
Worth pointing out as well, though, that while I was saying Jacob should have held back with the mechs there, if Deathstalker Rexar had come down like it did, there would still be 2 Spider Bombs knocking about on the board here. So
yeah,
it's worked out pretty well for Jacob in this instance.
But now the value game gets out of control for Brazil, as these zombies are very powerful. That Hunter's Mark cannot touch this Ethereum Rover.
It has to be silence here, I think, to actually be able to target it at all, which would turn it into a 1-3, so you wouldn't even need the Hunter's Mark then.
No silence, but more lifesteal.
More lifesteal.
Is what Nevers needs.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And this game was so close.
Giggling Inventor going to do some serious work as well.
Guess it's a good lesson though, Fountain. You should never say nevers. Yes! Get in!
Oh boy.
So delivery drone here, you're obviously not finding yourself any way to deal with this with like a Mossy Horror, for example, would be very juicy indeed.
Is Missile Launcher any good here? No, not really. Goes off at the end of the turn though, that's the problem.
I mean, it kills off a bit of the stuff that you're facing down, as the Warrior Mech Special is offered.
Dynamatic's no good. Not with the egg sitting on the board.
Could just go another Brilliant Nullifier, go super tall.
I do like it. If they don't want to go super tall, he could even play that on another mech later.
Yeah, you probably just play it as its own individual mech.
As a
right?
3/8.
Yeah, it's probably more valuable because you need multiple attacks here to take out the Anoitrons. Because you could go...
And it has rush.
Oh, no, yeah, all your mechs have rush. Yeah, of course, good point. So you can attack and take out both the Divine Shields this turn, set up for Reckless Flurry to try and hit lethal on the following turn.
If Spain still has any armor, which they should have armor. Gonna go Dynamatic, okay. I guess the Beetle's there, so it might hit that opponent. Wow!
Ooh,
close.
Very, very close.
Oh, having to shield slam it anyway. Unfortunate.
That seemed really optimistic to hope that it would kill it off, right?
3 more damage from the Zap Cannon, but it's too late now. The lifesteal's gotten going. The Zombeast in the hand has lifesteal also. A very quick flash at what it was there, but I missed it.
But now the more traditional game plan for Odd Warrior starts to set in, right? Where while they may not be delivering lethal on their turn here, fatigue just starts to set in.
No way. You think that the Jacobo can live long enough to
Oh,
start
yeah.
the fatigue game?
Absolutely. Look at it. He's still got removal in his hand. He's got a really good hero power with Dr. Boom's big old red button.
The hand removal is not great though. It's a little bit limited.
Like, if Neves goes too wide here, because he kind of has to keep playing beasts or it's not quick enough, a quick brawl could do an amazing job here. There are the 2 eggs, actually.
We're actually seeing now how good cubing the egg earlier on in the game was, because we sort of doubted that, but we're in the position now where Spain can't clear the board again, because those 2 eggs are there, ready to be 5/5s again.
I definitely did think it was the right situation. I just wanted to highlight how unoptimal it was. Like, that's not what you want to do, it's what he had to do.
Sure. Oh man, a big magnetic leaf minion would just be lethal here. That's 7 damage.
Yeah, you can go Reckless Flurry Magnetic. Oh no, you could connect it first, which means it would survive. You're then dealing 7 damage to face.
This would be
It's so close. If Spain had just
So
a little bit
close.
more mana this turn, he'd actually get there.
So then you go play the Beryllium Nullifier naturally as a 3/8. You don't magnetize it. Attack in, go face, 3 damage to face. That's not great either.
What about Dynamatic and use the rush to try and clear up bits of this board? Hopefully it won't kill both eggs, and then he can deal with 1 minion with the rush, deal with something else with. It's so awkward.
You proc just 1 egg though. It's so bad.
Not long to make this decision though.
Could hero power the thing, then go Beryllium Nullifier makes sense as well.
Go face for 7, yeah. I think going face for 7 is yeah. Oh no, no, we're not actually trying to clear this up. Goes face for 4 instead. Sure.
Trying to preserve his board, I guess. Because I mean, obviously, if you had the same hero power next turn, you could set up lethal.
Another card that's just no good against this board of untargetables.
Vicious Fledgling to potentially set up for a Stone Tusk Boar, start attacking face, or a Stealth. Could be very powerful defensively, or offensively, sorry.
Augmenting Elec to get the 2/1 shuffle into the deck.
Oh, yeah.
Just never die to fatigue.
Raptor Hatchling Synergy. I was actually playing Subject 9 Hunter in my break, and that was my out to just infinitely loot the Raptor Hatchlings.
Well, if you had an Elec, even easier.
As whatever option was taken there, Bloodworm is really not what you want to be going for, but potentially a necessary evil because you are going to be taking an awful lot of damage here for Brazil.
Taunt is just the best that Brazil have here, just holding on. The Wind Fury Fledgling doing some serious work there, but look how much armor Spain are getting.
That's not bad.
I know I was questioning before as to whether or not Jacobo could survive, but there's the silence. It's
There's
still
no
not
magnetic.
lethal.
There's no magnetic.
Oh my goodness. Silencing an egg might be reasonable though.
So if you silence it, you can then go Dynomatic to try and snipe off the 5/1 and miss the 0/1 egg. Feels a little bit shaky. I mean, I guess you just go...
The hero power.
Yeah, hero power would do it as well.
Okay, got an egg.
That
That's not the end of the world though.
didn't go great though, yeah. So now you're looking at silence the... Oh no, you don't actually have to silence, do you? You could just go
No.
hero power and then trade everything
That's
off.
right. Trade one of these 1/1s into the Fledgling, trade a 3 attack minion to finish it off, trade another 1/1 into the 5/1. It does leave a 5/5 on the board, but really, I don't think he cares too much about that.
Yeah, as long as this Beryllium Nullifier goes face as well. I'm liking what I see. Oh yes.
Neves now on 2 health once more.
Eat your heart out, Odd Rogue. Odd Warrior is the new aggro deck in town.
Don't think it is, Derek.
And I think if it's Spain, you just save the owl, right? Yeah.
That's 1 damage.
Yeah. Well, that... Not bad, hey.
It's halfway there.
But the owl can break through a taunt.
So I guess Neves needs a lifesteal rush or something here.
And as, like you said, Jacobo is halfway there.
There's an egg on the board still, right?
Yeah.
Direwolf Alpha will buff the egg, allow that to attack.
That's the thing. I guess, technically.
I mean, and then how Master Shaw will give the card rush, so he can actually... Brazil should be able to deal with Spain's board here. If you went with the Direwolf, then Bloodfen Raptor can be played with Master Shaw, and it will be the damage needed to clear the entire board. Jacobo will have another turn where he's 1 damage off lethal.
Jacobo's so nearly killing his opponent, though. And he saved these resources, so as soon as a lifesteal minion hits the board, you just snap go for the Brawl or Reckless Flurry, clear it off, and still try and get that hero power to kill off your opponent.
Not doing it this way is fine too without the Zombies.
No damage going through to Spain's face whatsoever, still at 43 health.
Is that shield block even playable? Yeah, I mean,
think so,
Spain's
yeah.
not worried about fatigue at all, so yeah.
I mean, it is a consideration. You are going to be taking a lot of damage, but I think finding your key removal cards is more important.
Jacobo does have 48 health. I don't think he's too worried about a little bit of fatigue.
I mean, it's something to consider. It could make the difference. You are going to be taking a lot of damage likely in the next few turns.
Discovering a mech isn't going to find him lethal. Actually, Missile Launcher is 1 damage.
Does it do it to heroes?
It does, yeah.
Oh, wow.
All other characters.
Well, that's the out then, I guess, right? Or obviously on the following turn, as it looks like it will probably just be Owl Brawl.
Right, but the hero power still gets played first. If Missile Launch is there, then it is just lethal.
Which tracks to follow?
Yeah, saying Owl Brawl does sound like they're putting in some very subtle cross-game advertising for everyone to go watch the Overwatch League. Like a new event this Sunday, the Owl Brawl.
The Overwatch League Brawl.
Yeah.
Senseless fate.
And here for Brazil, a bit of a weird choice because he knows he's not dying on this turn from what he's seeing. There's no damage through to face. But he does want to get playing those lifesteals. But then he's thinking, with how much removal is in my opponent's deck, and the Taunt is there, and the Silence is there as well, is this ever actually just going to work? Jacob would kill it off every single time.
No Missile Launcher. Feels bad, man.
So you take the War Gift for Magnetic? Should maybe go Security Rover.
Security Rover looks pretty good, actually. That's
Yeah, you can rush in straight away with it, can't you? And then rush in with your guys.
How important is killing Master Shaw?
Okay, then.
Might be quite important with lifesteal minions in the hand. Unless he leaves no minions alive, in which case the rush means nothing. So Steel Rager trading into the Master Shaw, or trading into anything.
I mean, Steel Rager is kind of just wrong, right?
It's just
all your
worse.
minions have rush anyway.
Well, no, because if he wants it to die, then Steel Rage is correct here. Like, deal with this. It means, again, there's nothing to rush into his minion. Or there's no minions to be rushed into.
I mean, it was identical there, right? But yeah, good point. He does not want stuff on the board, as he has found Kaboom. So it does have to be, what, Life Drinker here?
Life Drinker.
Or Tundra Rhino into Swamp Leech.
Yeah, or Lifesteal with Stone Tusk Ball. Like that's pretty much it.
You can't get Lifesteal and Tone Tusk Ball because they're both on the second option.
Oh, okay.
So I think it does have to be Life Drinker or Tundra Rhino first option, Lifesteal second option.
But either way, that's not it.
That ain't it.
Kaboom is going to represent lethal for the Odd Warrior against
Is there anything we're missing?
the Deathrattle Hunter. I don't. No, there's nothing we're missing here. Neves gives it up. Jacobo takes the win. That's 2 games in a row for Spain, who were looking incredibly unfavored this series and now find themselves 1 game away from being 4-0 in the Hearthstone Global Games Swiss.
While that was another bit of a slow one here, that was a pretty cool game to witness because, like we were saying, a lot of the cards that the Hunter needed did come early on. They found the cubes, they found Katharina Winter Wisp, all the beasts as well, which obviously had a little bit of counter synergy in there, obviously. But for Spain there, a pretty well played game, I would say, going nice and aggressive, trying to find their outs, and they hit it.
Yeah, the big disaster for Brazil was, of course, the fact that the last beast was drawn just before Katharina could have hit the board. That last beast being the King Crush that would have been summoned by the recruit and caused a lot of damage for Spain, especially if they were then able to go and cube it. We're going to go away and have a think about that matchup and have a think about these coming matchups as still potentially a long series ahead. Brazil have a good shot here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games, where Spain have taken a 2-0 lead against Brazil. This is the battle for the 4-0 position in the Hearthstone Global Games Swiss. And you know, Derek, I had a very quick chat with Akawanda just before we started with the series, and he wasn't feeling confident. He did say he doesn't feel like the match order has gone in their favour at all. He was saying that, as far as he's concerned, they have to win 3 50-50s if they want any chance of winning. But hey, so far so good.
Yeah, they've been in a very good position.
That last one was not 50-50.
Yeah, they've been winning unfavourables actually pretty consistently here. The aggro mage and control priest, I think, is one we might have to reevaluate after having seen it a couple times on here on Global Games. Seems a little bit different to the matchup we are used to. But here we have one that I think we can say is probably pretty favourable for Team Brazil. They've finally got a matchup. Surely they can't lose, Falk. Come on. It's
a different list than usual, and it's one that I believe you saw at HCT Germany. Yeah, it's the unexpected results Black Cat Spellshifter aggro mage.
Yeah, the one that I believe Calyx and Yogg, French teammates, were bringing. Like you said, the more spell damage heavy version, arguably more minion based, because you do have the Black Cats and the Celestial Emissaries thrown in there. Does this run the unexpected results as well?
Does, yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's the full kind of spell damage version. It's a very cool deck, even if it's not necessarily the best version.
I don't know if today is the day to be bringing French lists to the Hearthstone Global Games.
Oh, maybe not.
A little bit risky.
You don't want the old Chat Noir in your deck.
I don't know what that means, but I'm going to nod a lot and say yes anyway.
Black Cat.
Oh. Yeah, my French is
You
that
did
bad.
French.
My French, it really is that bad, Derek.
Right. Your Italian, however, is flawless, so I'm told.
Fluent, actually, yeah. Oh, look at that. Brazil got the Mana Worm. They got the Sorcerer's Apprentice. This is looking like a good start.
Yeah, a very respectable hand indeed. Whereas for Akawanda, Flanking Strike is a good card in this matchup. The Terrascale Stalker is a good card in this matchup if you can hit the old egg on turn 3, which Akawanda so far has not a whiff of.
But Perna has free reign now to just plonk this Mana Worm on the board and start buffing it. Sorcerer's Apprentice on 2 actually seems really good here. There's nothing that Akawanda can do on turn 3 to deal with it.
This is, however, I believe, a secretless version of the deck, isn't it? So there is no ability for messing with opponent's spells, because in this game, if Brazil could go for counterspell, that would kind of just lock out the game in their favour already, because Flanking Strike is going to be 100% necessary to pull this game back for Spain.
But Apprentice now on the next turn, either Fireball or Arcane Intellect coin, and then maybe a Frostbolt or whatever gets drawn, is looking great. Akawanda probably has to put this 3-3 on the board now.
Yeah, you have absolutely no choice. You just need to start fighting for board.
But that gives Shooting Star a target potentially. Imagine Anomaly here. Coin that out, Shooting Star.
That would be very good. Primordial Glyph, however, is not half bad.
No.
Yeah, I think you quite happily gobble that one up. Try and find yourself... what are you looking for? You have a 3 mana discount on whatever you get. Cinderstorm, a secret, even just a Frostbolt.
Frostbolt's
this off.
fine,
It's not bad, yeah.
Cinderstorm's probably better most of the time, maybe. As I trail off. With Shooting Star, it should pretty consistently clear the board at least.
Wondering there if Arcane Intellect was the play first, but if you get an expensive spell like, I don't know, maybe you get another like we saw last game, Molten Reflections could be very strong here as well. As we are as in the dark as you are, chat, no options there currently available.
It's another one of those discovers that just nothing happened. It's twice in one series, amazing.
Cinderstorm, however, has been found for Brazil, which is very nice to throw down, if not on this turn, which I imagine it would be, on a following turn with the missiles as well.
Oh, no!
Yeah, you do want to be going for the Anomaly into Cinderstorm, don't you?
He has to play it now. He's got Anomaly into Arcane Missiles next turn. That's pretty good itself. Oh, now he has to play the Missiles, though.
Yeah. Messing up the order somewhat, obviously, there with the Mana Worm, but it's better than doing nothing. And finally, it does manage to find its target. Flanking Strike is available here for a disgustingly big swing here for Spain, which, again, no choice whatsoever. They just have to go for it. But still, so much damage coming through from Brazil. Rexar basically has to be found for there to be any chance with a Cinderstorm found as well here.
If Perna finds himself one off lethal, though, that missed sequencing could actually cause some issues. But like, you're right, it doesn't matter until Rexar is drawn. Rexar is the only way that Akawanda can gain himself some more health. And right now he needs that quite badly.
Yeah, he needs it very badly, especially when all these missiles, I was going to say they were all going base, but that's fine as well. You clear off the board, you now set up for a situation where your opponent has to clear this off with another flanking strike, or they just lose the game right now. And even with Rexar off the top, it's so close.
Still lethal!
Still just lethal, though.
Wow. And that's Sorcerer's Apprentice that was played on turn 2. As we said, the Hunter has no way of dealing with it, and it's just another example of why this matchup is so favoured for the aggro mage. There it is. Finally, Brazil get a win on the board, but this series is by no means over. Brazil still have a lot of work to do if they want to win both of these coming games.
And I just don't really know how to respond to that. In the land that time forgot, there is the HG Studios here. What, like a 2-minute game is a very nice way to cleanse the palate, as it were, get ourselves excited for the last couple of games.
This keeps happening today. It keeps happening. Like the first Odd Warrior match we had, oh sorry, the Warrior, it wasn't Odd Warrior at all. It was Quest Warrior versus Deadman Hand. We had that, and then aggro mage game over very quickly. And then last series we had the Shaman Mirror, and then aggro game very quickly. So seems to be what keeps happening today, which is absolutely fine by me. Let's mix things up a bit. But next, we're going to have Mali Togwaggle Druid versus Control Priest. And Derek, because it's been banned so often, this is actually the first time I'm going to have cast a Druid, I believe, since the expansion came out.
Is that right? Wow. I mean, I believe we've all been playing a lot of the deck. It is immensely powerful on ladder at the moment. Just kind of flew up the legend ranks with it, because sometimes you just draw those hands that it's difficult to lose with, and sometimes you get matchups that it's difficult to lose with. And I would argue this is one of them matchups.
Are you playing Tog as well, or are you just playing Mali?
I have been playing just the Malygos version. Like at the start of the season, I hit Legend with just Malygos Druid, when that was kind of the flavour at the start of the new expansion. Then I switched over to just Malygos, and I've been playing a tiny bit of the hybrid both version here. It is quite complicated to play. It is a fair bit more difficult than the regular, simple Malygos version, I would say, because you have to know what your win condition is throughout the whole game. You can switch around sometimes, but basically you need to know what your game plan is very strongly. But basically, no matter what kind of druid you're playing here, be it Togwaggle or Malygos, you are in a really nice spot against the Control Priests.
Yep, I mean, there's a lot of armor gain in any druid deck nowadays. Druid is just the best at gaining mana, it's the best at gaining armor, it's the best at drawing cards, it's
the best at gaining ranks as well.
It's the best at gaining ranks, and the best at losing legend points. Because you want to lose the legend points, that's a good thing.
Oh, right. I thought you meant, like, losing HCT points.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's good at
You'll get them.
Too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably a favoured matchup for Brazil here, who have already lost a favoured matchup. Again, we're not going to argue about the Mage versus Priest now. We'll look into that later. But the Deathrattle Hunter versus Odd Warrior, no matter who you talk to, this list versus this list will have been favoured for the Hunter. And Spain were able to take that one, so who knows? Maybe Spain could take this one too.
They're definitely in with a chance. If you can find yourself in the mid stages of the game with the Control Priest, sticking down a Geist to deal with a lot of the removal that Druid has, so you deal with their Naturalizers and their Spellstones, then it can maybe get to the situation where you stick Twilight Drakes, Primordial Drakes, push a big offensive with your Dragons in the mid game, then you follow up with maybe Alexstrasza, Anduin, Mind Blast, Holy Fires. You can do a bit of an onslaught if you are able to dodge their removal. But even then, things start getting really hairy once you start running into Plague, Inventors, Armor Gain. They probably will still have some removal through the likes of Swipe and Moonfires as well in the worst case scenario. The work is definitely cut out for them here for Spain.
The series could be very close to the wire though, because then that final game, if Brazil do take this, will be Brazil on the Even Warlock versus Spain on the Malygos Druid, and that could go either way.
Yes, that one is a little bit more even-sided, I would say. The even lock, I would still probably just about favour in that matchup. Like I said, the early game is very much in the favour of the even lock, because you have Giants coming down, you have Twilight Drakes coming down, and the late game, in the Battle of the Death Knights, straight up, the the Gul'dan does just kind of win against Malfurion. The life gain that you're getting while dealing the damage is just too strong the majority of the time. Malygos and Togwaggle can have a thing to say about that, but I think it's a little bit more of an even series than what we're going to be seeing coming up in this next game.
But here we go. It looks like we are just getting started. It is Control Priest versus Mali Tog Druid. Is that what we're calling this archetype? Mali Tog Druid?
You could call it Hybrid Druid.
Hybrid Druid, like that works. Because it feels wrong to me calling this Malygos Druid with Togwaggle, because Togwaggle just does win some matchups that Malygos can't.
All right, we can call it Togwaggle Druid with Malygos.
Well, that also feels wrong. Poor Malygos. Why would you leave Malygos out of the title?
I just can't win.
I liked your first suggestion, the Hybrid Druid.
Okay, brilliant. We'll go with that one then.
You actually won earlier than you thought you did.
Got me again. Don't I look a fool?
Wild Growth, Ultimate Infestation. Okay, Ultimate Infestation, not away. I guess Wild Growth into Nourish is the dream. Hey, there you go. Wild Growth into Nourish.
Yep, very tasty hand for Lucas. You're gobbling that up all day long. Like you said, Wild Growth, Nourish. You don't really care about the other cards too much. You'd like to hit the Twig early on to avoid the weapon removal, ? In the Priest. Doesn't look like there's oh, sorry, 1 Acidic Swampu. So Spain is running an Acidic Swampu so they can deal with the Twig later on. But even then, Brazil should be able to draw through their whole deck pretty consistently here. Play that Dream Petal Florist, reduce the cost of either Malygos or Azalina, and swap the decks if, I mean, just on its own, Malygos doesn't do it in its own right, which it could very possibly just do.
Yes, against Priest, which has no way of gaining armor. Again, that one copy of Omega Medic is the only new card in this deck.
So if you do manage to reduce the cost of Malygos, if you take the game long enough and you don't die, you can just go 2 mana Malygos into the Floop, into Swipe Double Moonfire, which is just lethal every time. So inevitability very much on the side of Brazil. So Spain will have to get a move on here, as they clearly are curving out pretty decently with these first couple minions.
Yeah, Lucas doesn't have all that much to do at the moment, but that's fine. Not taking too much damage from this Pyromancer. And okay, look at that. Double Nourish and Ultimate Infestation. This... Okay, so any of the complicated decisions about these Nourishes, do I ramp with this Nourish? Do I draw with it? No, it's quite simple now. Ramp with the first one, and then...
Probably ramp with the second
do
one.
what you want with the second one. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Ultimate Infestation comes down, and Brazil draws the deck.
Yeah, you obviously need to be worrying about hand size issues when you're playing Ultimate Infestation, because overdrawing a key combo piece could be your downfall in this matchup. So going Nourish into Nourish and any other cards they want to play on that turn, because they will be at 8 mana, so they will have 5 mana left over after they go for the Nourish.
Difficult decision for Delsum, actually, because he could just curve into a Mega Medic and try and start smoking Lucas down, but that plan never wins against Spreading Plague. Coin, I guess Cleric heal, draws 2 cards. You should never go full Cleric, though.
Oh, please, Dr. Boom taught me something else.
Taught you to give your opponent full Cleric.
It is worth pointing out as well, Full Cleric is a meme applied to Priest mirrors and puzzles only.
All right, sorry.
It's not something you're really afraid of here. There's no healing touch tech. Is that what it's even called?
Healing touch? Yeah, I think so.
3 mana, yeah.
No Tree of Life either.
Yeah, no. Yeah. As Lucas, again, he has gained 4 mana already. This is looking to be a turn 6 Ultimate Infestation, I guess, which, like, fine, brilliant, you've broken the game, well done.
That's a new record broken. Actually, no, a couple biology projects would have made... If that Tog was a biology project, exactly, that would have made this...
If that Togwaggle was a biology project, you've built a bad deck. So I think Dalesome would be a little bit happier there. Because Dalesome does not look all too happy at the moment, even though he is drawing this pretty disgusting amount of cards right at the start of the game. Like, it doesn't get much better for this in the early game for Priest, outside of, I guess, sticking a Twilight Drake.
9 cards in hand and 2 naturalized for Brazil. It's probably just not worth it, but maybe?
You could go naturalized Togwaggle as just something to think about.
The problem is...
You get the bad deck then? Like, you don't do that. You don't do that.
The problem is he's giving up malygos. In a regular, pure Togwaggle deck with no malygos, I think you do that. But in a
Wait,
deck...
really? No. You don't have the Death Knight yet. You're getting the worst deck because they have more cards in hand.
Okay.
Like, you need to draw more of your deck here first. That's not really how Togwaggle Druid works, I think. Because, like, what does that actually do? They get 21 cards, you get 16. Your deck probably does more than theirs at the moment.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, especially with the malygos combo things, like...
I think they're really just wondering what they do with this Nourish. They probably end up ramping with it, right? Because they want to clear room for Ultimate Infestation. Well,
guess not. Guess they're hoping that they draw some cards that are actually playable, unlike these, which are very expensive. However, Dream Petal Florist is... I mean, this is all of the combo pieces, right?
it is pretty much all the combo pieces, you're right. It's a little bit awkward because you'd almost like to stick it on Malygos most because, like I said, you can then just go for the full combo.
Good.
As what is that? Dustbreaker, Power Word
Nothing
Shield,
relevant.
Divine Hymn, nothing important. Yeah, no Alex Strauzer.
Say goodbye to your deck,
No
Dialsum,
Anduin.
but that's fine because he didn't lose anything of note. Using it both naturalized quite smart as well before turn 6, knowing there's a Skulking Geist in the deck that would have been ripping those cards out of the hand.
Good point. I was going to say that you kind of want to save them until after the full Togwaggle Azalina combo to fatigue them a little bit more, but like you said, getting them out of their hand feels just fine.
I mean, at this rate, Lucas just doesn't even ever need to play the Togwaggle. He can just gain some armor and maybe not draw too many cards. Oh, no, it's fine. He can use both Ultimate Infestations and still make his deck thinner than Spain's.
Even though your opponent's drawn so many cards here, you're a druid.
Still draw more.
And like I said, you don't need that combo. You can go for trying to hit the Dream Petal on Malygos, and then go for the full Malygos OTK.
That's never going to be better than a 1 in 3 now, though. Togwaggle and Azalina never get played before the Malygos.
You're right. I mean, you still have Twig you could go on. Or you could just
dump
give up the
Malygos
Malygos combo right now.
I mean, there's definitely a world where it can't get cleared. Psychic Scream can't happen yet. What else is there to clear it?
Yeah, I guess there's nothing, actually. Do you get met by what? There's no copy of Mass Dispel either, so it can't be silenced.
There really is nothing.
Is there actually just nothing?
There's Twilight Acolyte, Cabal Shadow Priest.
That's not available
in 3
yet.
turns. Yeah, great.
This is the biggest abuse of mana I've seen in a long time, because your opponent just can't do anything, right? They can go for Holy Fire. That doesn't kill it. That only deals 9 damage. This is sick. Lucas now can just go Ultimate Infestation to face next turn.
And then it gets Psychic Screamed back into the deck.
Brilliant. Why not?
To be played again later.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, man.
This is a very cool.
Obviously, any Moonfires that get drawn from this Ultimate Infestation can be played immediately.
That'd be 6 damage apiece. You're just moving into lethal very quickly because your opponent's going to be down to, what, 15 next turn if you UI the face? Which I would have to imagine is the play, right?
Yep. 2 Moonfires is then down to 3.
And now you thin out the spell stones from your deck. Lucas is pretty happy with that, I'd say.
Okay, is there any consideration to swipe instead whatsoever?
Well, you clear off the board. You can still draw with Ferocious Howl, but... And, you know, you do want Ultimate Infestation to draw after this is very likely Psychic Screamed back into your deck next turn.
Right, exactly. So Ferocious Howl first into Swipe the Face. That's 9 damage, clears the whole board, as you said. Malygos his face. And then, again, we're still in the place where the only removal is Psychic Scream. And then, exactly as you said, then the UI gets played, Malygos gets drawn again and played again.
Yeah, like, you're talking me into swipe here, but then you're not playing Ultimate Infestation on 10 mana. Which,
Good
like,
counter argument, yeah.
Your next turns get so good, right? You want to start drawing through your deck, but... Again, what is the answer? If you swipe face here, they Psychic Scream.
The answer is, you want to play Ultimate Infestation on turn 6, so you play Ultimate Infestation on turn 6.
Yeah. Well, I believe it's actually a measly turn 7 for Brazil
sorry.
on the play instead of the coin.
Oh, that's much worse. You don't want to play Ultimate Infestation on turn 7.
Useless, right?
Oof.
As again, Moonfire here to face as well, demanding answers right now in terms of removal first of all, and then healing after. Because if there's no healing here, they're met with 5 damage to face on this turn. It's not lethal, but it's a lot of damage.
Scream now, then Malfurion comes down, deals 3, and then Swipe Malfurion represents lethal the following turn.
This is a very cool play from Brazil.
I must
The
consider.
Malygos on the
Yeah.
prior, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Ultimate Infestation was not a very cool play. So for Spain here, trying to find any reason to not go for Psychic Scream.
Well,
they
he-
could now go Holy
Holy
Fire.
Fire on the Malygos, but then
Yep.
the 5/5 survives and negates any of the healing that gets done.
That is correct.
And Delsum still loses his board, so doesn't really seem much better.
You really don't want to shuffle back in a Malygos into their deck, though, because they will just draw it again. You just die in the immediate, right? You don't do that.
Delsum is just trying to survive until he can play the Omega Medic and heal himself up by 10. Which isn't necessarily going to be soon enough. Well, I don't know. Malfurion comes down, like I said, that's 3 damage. Then Divine Hymn can happen to put Spain out of range one more time. Is Malfurion even the play here?
So you're going into turn 8 for your opponent, which does potentially mean Anduin. So you want to play stuff that doesn't die to hero power, which is basically your whole hand, so that's not really a consideration. Swipe face to set up lethal with Ultimate Infestation. They just heal out of range, so that's not really something that you want to be going for quite yet. Yeah, I think you probably just go for it, unless you want to develop minions with Duskbreaker. Like, you could go Spreading Plague, Tyrant, Duskbreaker this turn.
I'll ask you something completely crazy. Is there any reason to consider Togwoggle? And I'm thinking mana abuse here. Brazil have 10, Spain only have 5. Oh, sorry, only have 7. Which means they would have to spend 5 of their mana just to swap decks back, and there's a 5/5 on the board. It's probably not the play.
No, yeah.
But
Like, you just save this now. Even if things go wrong here, you draw your whole deck, because here Lucas is making the play that I was kind of thinking of, where you play as much stuff as you can on the board, which means you're dumping your hand.
Yeah.
You're threatening lethal very easily next turn, unless your opponent finds an answer, which they don't really have at the moment. Dale's head in hand. Yeah, he can go for Cabal Shadow Priest, the 1/5 on this turn is worth considering. Obviously, you've seen both naturalizes. You know that there's no spellstones in deck because you've Geisted, so it's fairly likely to stick around for that turn. And even if a swipe does come down, they would not then have lethal after the heal. But then Holy Fire on a 4/4 here is also worth considering, but it doesn't actually put anything into the board. I think this probably gives you the highest chance of wrestling back board control, which is so key here. Because for Spain here, if they don't win back board control and start dealing some damage to face to actually close out the game with Mind Blast and Holy Fires, the game's over. So not even really close here quite yet for lethal.
no,
For Lucas.
I do. Again, I harped on about Malfurion last turn. I do like the idea of getting that down sooner rather than later, and
Yeah,
just
I agree.
guaranteeing that that hero power is starting to deal 3 damage apiece rather than 1. And this seems as good a turn as any.
Yeah, I think I even like the Northshire Cleric as well.
Yeah, why not?
Like, if it gets screamed back into your deck, you don't care because you have an Ultimate Infestation. You just want to get it out of your hand so you can start going for Dream Petal and Azalina. Oh, okay, going for this first is quite clever, actually. You just get 1 more armor than going for the Malfurion first.
Yeah.
A cute play that often doesn't come up.
Overpowering before the Malfurion. Yeah, sure.
It does mean that one... Actually, was that right? This play, if you'd gone for attacking with the 3/3 with the upgraded hero power, you take 1 more damage, but you push 1 more damage as well because you can attack face with the 4/4.
Which is probably a worthwhile
Yeah,
trade-off,
I'm not even
actually.
sure that's right, as cute as it was. Because then there are, instead of 23, 22, They're not dying to any kind of Mind Blast nonsense this turn.
Exactly, but Lucas is trying to find every point of damage he can to kill Delsum, so yeah, I guess that would have been the better game plan. Only 2 options there on the Shadow Visions, not sure what the second one was, but Psychic Scream.
I mean, it'd be Mind Blast, right?
Does clear the board, yeah, I guess it must be. Yeah, that's right, because there's only one in the hand and the other hasn't been played.
So now with all combo pieces found, you can definitely consider an ultimate infestation to face on this turn, because you're not really doing all too much else with this board unless you want to go Dream Petal Hero Power, which is worth considering. You stick a 4/4, which can just start hitting your opponent if it's not cleared off.
Doesn't want to burn the Malygos though. Maybe it doesn't matter too much if he's playing you right to the face. I don't know.
Like, you're going to be burning cards at some point with this hand, right? Everything's just stodgy. And you probably don't really want to be playing Malygos again this game, right, anyway, because then they could just go for Twilight Acolyte, Cabal, Shadow Priest.
Yeah, okay.
Unless that stops them from going for a heal, which wins you the game.
Dream Petal's great here, though.
Yeah.
It's a 4/4 body, which priests historically struggle to deal with, and it allows Malfurion to hero power the face. Alexstrasza could be used defensively, I guess, but he's not dealing with the Dream Petal. How important even is it for Delsum to deal with the Dream Petal?
It's not that important. Lucas wouldn't go for it if he didn't have the guaranteed combo already. And, like, yes, maybe they reduce a Malygos that's in hand as well, but they probably wouldn't go for that. Maybe they reduce both of these minions, and then they can use more of the spells from your hand on the turn they go for the Togwaggle Azalina combo. But I think in this matchup, when you don't have naturalizes yourself, which is the main thing you really don't want them to steal, I don't think it goes that bad.
I wonder.
Especially as, how do you deal with it? You go Holy Fire, which you really want to target your opponent's face in this matchup. But then even if you go defensive Alexstrasza, it would then be double branching paths up to 6, hero power for 9.
I mean, Omega Medic is...
Swipe for 13 damage.
Omega Medic's just better, right, than Alexstrasza, and I guess Holy Fire, actually dealing with the Dream Petal is considered better than that by Spain.
It's not necessarily just better. You could push for lethal on the following turn with Alexstrasza to face and a few Mind Blasts.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about the aggressive Alexstrasza.
But Dalestorm here is doing a much better job of drawing through his deck at the moment than Lucas is, which gives him a very good chance at just winning the game through his opponent not being able to draw anywhere near quickly enough.
I mean, it just completely counters Togwaggle as well, doesn't it? Like, now there's no point whatsoever for Brazil switching, as Malygos is the first card drawn from this ultimate infestation. I believe there's still a second Moonfire in the deck somewhere too.
Swipe's kind of a sad burn.
It is.
You don't want to see that go. You would much rather lose the annoying little Skulking Geist that you've had shuffled into your deck. However, this board, well, before the Twilight Acolyte was looking a little bit annoying. Now it seems fairly trivial, actually, for Dalestorm to deal with.
I wonder.
But then on the response, if you go for Twilight Acolyte, Cabal, Shadow Priest on this turn, your opponent then just goes for Spreading Plague, Branching Paths on the next turn, and you probably just die. You've played one Psychic Scream naturally and one from a Shadow Vision, so there's still the possibility for Spain to scream another board back into their opponent's deck. And outside of Twilight Acolyte into Cabal Shadow Priest, what can Dalestorm do? Heal back up? Just leave a 5/5 on board?
Oh, that's it. That 5/5 belongs to the priest now. 2/5, I guess.
But now Malygos, if this board is cleared, can just be played, right? There's nothing for Spain to be able to deal with this. They're playing... oh, they are playing 2 Cabal Shadow Priests and 2 Twilight Acolytes.
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit riskier now. Well, it's much riskier than it was when Spain barely had the mana to play just the Twilight Acolyte alone, let alone the combo.
A tangled web.
Plague Branching Paths. Obviously, the first thing I'm looking at on this turn is to try and represent a lethal towards your opponent on the following turn.
Is Plague really any better than Giggling Inventor now, though?
I mean, Giggling always gives you 3, right?
Yeah.
And Plague might give you more here. And in terms of Pyromancer health, the Giggling Inventors have quite a lot less health, actually. Or the Annoyatrons do, actually.
Yeah, Giggling Inventor itself also has quite a lot less health than the Plagues.
My thoughts are plagued.
Yeah,
As in the end, Lucas couldn't really decide what to go for here, but he just slams down the Malygos here, forcing his opponent to trade in.
In it goes again! No, not really. I expect the trades to happen instead. It's not simple, though. Like, it would have to be the trades plus Pyromancer plus Spell to clear this.
Which is not the worst for Spain, right? He can go Pyromancer, Shadow Visions to get the only Mind Blast, which I think is the only spell left in the deck at this point.
It should be, and he should play that Shadow Visions sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Why Shadow Reaper Anduin, though? Still not drawn.
Yeah, this matchup is hard when you have Anduin at the top of your deck. When it's right there at the bottom, it gets significantly more difficult. Because, I mean, we were saying Togwaggle becomes a useless win condition for Lucas. He then, in that case, just says, so what? Fatigue yourself. Be my guest. Your opponent has to make themselves lose to not lose. It's a bit of a weird way that Togwaggle works.
But hey, what it does do is work. Clearly. Still a little bit to do left this game, though. As Delson finds himself one more time with a board as Lucas draws a 5-mana 5/5.
I've kind of lost count of how many cards Lucas has drawn this game with both UIs being played. Nourishes, Ferocious Howls.
Psychic Scream, man. Just keep putting them back
giving him so many cards in his deck. It's nuts how much more value you give your opponent by playing that card, but still how objectively powerful the card is. Like, it's nuts how good Psychic Scream is, but it's just kind of bad here for Spain.
Well, again, putting more cards in the Togwaggle Druid deck maybe isn't the worst thing in the world.
But again, like, Lucas just lets his opponent fatigue here. He's easily outlasting the Anduin hero power. It's really only just minions on board that he's afraid of, right? Which is why burning the swipe was somewhat annoying.
The triple Mind Blast is 19 damage in one turn. It's even more than that split across several turns. So maybe he doesn't outlast.
Maybe.
Like, I mean, one Mind Blast is 9 damage per turn. It's 27 over 3.
Yeah, but you can just gain 24 armor with double branching paths.
Okay.
What's true? Sorry, 27 armor in one go. Which you just outlast them. You just win, right? And Ferocious Howl to draw a card, fine. You're still miles ahead on fatigue then, and you gain like 9 more armor.
Okay, if Anduin had been drawn already, it would have been played, right?
Yes.
So is there any logic to just switching decks?
But
you take the smaller deck, which is the issue, but there's not really any good cards left in Brazil's deck now.
Yeah, I guess it's worth considering, right? But then you're still just fatiguing first. You give your opponent a good deck full of cards. And that's kind of how you lose, because you realize at this point, Dalestorm is just going to start killing themselves. They don't have enough stuff to do to win this game, whereas you do. Like, you do have to make weird plays as Togwaggle, I agree. And you definitely don't want to be copying your opponent's hand with Azalina in the meanwhile yet, because you have double branching paths, which is nuts here.
That was me wanting to switch decks back on turn 7. Turn 9, I guess it was, actually.
Whereas Brazil just stuck a Malygos and did like 10, 15 extra damage because of it.
Probably a little bit better than my play.
Arguably. And also undeniably. And so I like here for Lucas, while he's under no threat of death at the moment, obviously not right now going to be dying to any kind of damage at a nice balmy 22 health. Going wide on the board, because it gives him the option with these branching paths. He can take the game in multiple different ways. he could go for the plus attack if he has the potential to kill his opponent. But if this board is cleared and he has to go for armor, then he can follow up with the armor gain when he has more information about the situation that he's in.
Primordial Drake's certainly one of the better draws right now, being able to clear up both Divine Shields and also the Giggling Inventor. It does let Delsum deal with all of these taunts. But it's still not quite winning the game. Where's Anduin?
Yeah, you have to go for it, because if you give your opponent all this more stuff with Psychic Scream, like, they just never, ever, ever fatigue, and you're giving them your biggest threats. You need a board to stick here again so that you can deal that damage to finish off the game with Anduin, wherever it may be.
And this board does just about stick based off of the hero power alone, but there's still a swipe in Brazil's hand. There's still a swipe Spain hasn't seen, and that swipe will completely allow Brazil to finish off this board.
Quickly.
Still really not looking good for the Priest. They've not been looking good for the Priest all game. Lucas has had this blowout start, and the matchup wasn't good to begin with.
However, still no ability to actually deal with this board right now. Actually, no, that's not true.
The swipe
hero power, yeah. Would allow him to clear off everything. He is then afraid of Alex Straza, which is always something that the Brazilian team will be discussing here. It's such a key card in the matchup. You've definitely got that in your mind.
And as you say, there isn't a way of clearing Alex Straza yet, so Lucas is going to have to go with Spreading Plague to try and help defend himself. The battle cry from the Alex Straza doesn't do all of that much, just reducing Lucas's health by 3. It's just the attacks to the face which are causing the damage. But hey, Brazil decides to take a really aggressive route here, and is this going to be Psychic Scream number 3?
Well, if they don't go for it, what happens here? They can clear up one of these minions.
Going to destroy all of his own powerful minions first, and shuffle in the 2-mana 1/5s into the deck.
They are pretty bad, but that's still just board that can be made for Lucas. Those are taunts that get in the way
of Alex Straza.
And the branching path being used is obviously bad here for Lucas. With the way that played out, he would much rather have gone for armor. But he still has one. He still has a Ferocious Howl, and he can just draw like crazy here. Like, Ferocious Howl is so fine to play.
With 10 cards still remaining in the deck on turn 50 or whatever this is, yeah, I'd say Ferocious Howl is fine.
And at some point, it's also worth pointing out, if Spain doesn't go for these Mind Blasts, Brazil will just take their hand and hit them for 15.
Unfortunately, 15 still isn't enough. Well, I mean, they could Alex and then hit him for 15. That's the scary part. That would have been useful a little bit sooner.
Yeah, doesn't really make any difference anymore. It's 4 mana, deal 1 damage at a later date. As Brazil still trying to stick aboard at any cost. They've seen so many Psychic Screams now. It's just Anduin left as the only ability to really lock down this game for Spain. And they're going aggressive here with Alex Straza, hoping that they can connect this to face. We can clearly see, though, Swipe does have the ability to clear this off, and I would have to imagine Lucas is going to go for it.
Even if Lucas just put up a taunt every turn, at some point Delsum's going to draw Anduin and going to have to play Anduin, and that in itself will deal with the Alex Straza. So it looks like it's not going to happen, and I still can't see Anduin dealing quite the damage necessary. Again, a Mind Blast every turn is 9 damage a turn, but Brazil can gain so much more armor than that 27.
Yeah, and once the cards have been expended, the fact that Brazil will gain more armor than Spain is dealing each turn is so key here. Just that one extra armor you're gaining every turn will very quickly pull you out of range. Especially because Spain will just start dying. They'll start fatiguing very quickly.
Death is eternal. My turn is not.
So Lucas here, once again, going on the aggressive here. Doesn't want to use this for armor because he's thinking the swipe is more valuable.
Psychic Scream number 4?
Of armor.
Finally, Anduin is drawn. And yeah, that is a bit of a head-scratcher. It's difficult to really fathom how that attack could be better than gaining armor. Then again, I guess Lucas has decided he has more armor than he could possibly need to last out the rest of this game. And hey, if that Void Form hero power is having to go into the Scarab anyway, then it can't be so bad, right?
Yeah, it's not ridiculous, right? As long as you're armoring up a whole bunch. Because there is, what, like you said, 19, 21 if you space it out over 2 turns. 23, 25. Nah, it just doesn't get there, right? Even if you just figure out exactly how much damage this could do in the best case scenarios.
No, I'm counting like 31 over 4 turns.
And again, as soon as Lucas doesn't like his hand anymore, which is very possibly right now, he just goes for the Mind Blasts, right?
As soon as he doesn't like
He still
his
has the
hand
hero
anymore.
power. Like, playing a Scarab Beetle isn't better than a hero power, I don't think. So Azalina armor up is a consideration on this turn, and they're clearly talking about it.
My turn is not.
Is that swipe just entirely useless now then? Brazil may as well use the rest of the resources they have. They can play the Scarab, they can play Twig, they can hero power, and then get 4 damage per turn.
Fair enough.
I'm just going to gain armor. Not even going to bother playing the Twig. Just
Out of cards.
not sure what they have to lose by playing that, to be honest. Well, that Twilight Drake's certainly not going to be living up to his full potential.
Yep, Spain have to use all these pings just to try and stick a little board. Swipe should be able to deal with this very easily indeed, though. Yep, Brazil just playing all the good cards that they can from their hand. I would imagine hero powering up a whole bunch. And again, once they don't like what they got anymore, they can just get a whole bunch of Mind Blasts. Even though Delson will probably start playing them very soon.
$35 armor, it's just not happening.
It's just not, is
It's
it?
just
It's
not.
never there.
It's not possible. Doesn't matter how far you stretch your animation, your imagination now. There is no sequence of events that allows Spain to deal 35 damage. This Twilight Drake never survives. There we go. Delson finally gives it up. We are going all the way to game number 5 as Lucas. He doesn't seem too happy about that win. He looks rather stressed, actually. That was a long game of Hearthstone, but now we have even Warlock for Brazil versus malygos Druid for Spain.
Yeah, like you said, those games can be some of the most stressful games where your only thing you really need to do is lock out your chances of losing. So you're running through so many scenarios in your head. Maybe I gave them this out. They could have stuck a board. They could have stole my Malygos. You need to be so careful with how you're thinking of it. And it did clearly get to the Brazilians there. But in the end, I think the game worked out for them, even though I'm sure there were many different lines they could have gone for, especially given that Togwaggle was never even close to being played that whole game.
Only one game left today. Again, it's going to be even Warlock versus malygos Druid. Brazil versus Spain fighting to be 4-0 in the HGG Swiss. We'll be back in just a few moments. One final game left here today at the Hearthstone Global Games Studio to decide whether Spain or Brazil will be amongst the winners of the Swiss at the 4-0 bracket. It's going to be even Warlock versus malygos Druid. And Derek, you were just saying to me that actually it's not that easy for the malygos Druid to get through.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup that's somewhat skewed by my ladder experience because there's so much Warlock on ladder and I'm playing a lot of malygos Druid at the moment. And every time I get Naturalize in hand, I'm like, you know what, I'll throw it this time. It's definitely going to be a Zoo. And then it always ends up being even Warlock. And then every time I decide to keep it, it ends up being the Zoo instead.
Pretty sure that's not going to happen to Spain.
Well, that's what I mean. You
Definitely gonna be
you know what you're up against here, so you know exactly what you're looking for. It's just the ramp, the Naturalize to deal with the Giant very possibly, and move towards your own win condition as quick as possible.
Oh, hey, what do you know? I'm just checking the deck list and it is Zoo. I'm just kidding. It is even Warlock.
Goodness, it almost gave me a heart attack.
Just trying to relive your ladder experiences there, Derek.
Please, no. I need any escape from that I can get.
Naturalize in the hand, though. I very much doubt that we'll see that being thrown away.
Yeah, with such a lackluster hand outside of it, I could hear the argument for throwing away Naturalize because your opponent isn't even on the coin, so they can't go for a turn 3 Mountain Giant. But you just want it. It's the first test you have to pass. Everything after that falls into place a lot easier if you deal with that first Giant. And not a bad hand outside of that. Twig is a nice way to get the ball rolling. Obviously an Acidic Swampoos in Brazil's deck, so they do have an answer to that. So it's not like activating that will be the complete win condition as it is against some decks. But it's a nice way to start things off because who knows, maybe they don't have it.
The ball is certainly going to be rolling for Spain. They'd love to see a Wild Growth or a Nourish. There is a Mountain Giant now in Brazil's opening hand. So, you know, the Mountain Giant will happen on 4, then the Naturalize will happen after that. Demonic Project is very interesting against Malygos Druid.
Yeah, if you can hit exactly the Malygos or the Flute for that matter. Yeah, you can get yourself in a very good spot in this matchup actually, as Race finds himself not only 1, but 2 Mountain Giants to get things going here, as Akawanda also gets himself a really nice hand. Wild Growth, Twig, Naturalize is really what you're looking for, just needs a Nourish.
In addition to Floop, Spain are also running Dream Petal Florist, which is less common in decks without Malygos, but just an extra thing there. So
in decks without Togwaggle.
Sorry, with decks without Togwaggle. But what that means is that Demonic Project pretty much has to hit Malygos, or Malygos combo things can still happen.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it hits Floop or Florist.
Or, of course, the they could just kill their opponent. This is assuming that the game plan A for Race does not work, which is smack your opponent with big A8 doofuses.
And it's not looking bad unless Akawanda can pick up the second Naturalize, which is unlikely. One of those Giants is going to stick around and do some pretty disgusting things.
I think Brazil here almost considering playing the Defile because it's unlikely to do much in this matchup. And you do want to be tapping really, really hard here to make sure your Giants are cheap and you're finding the hooked Reavers. I like the consideration. I wouldn't have even hated it that much. Like, you can clear off boards of, you know, spreading plague stuff afterwards, but it's not going to be doing much here.
There is an Ooze in Race's Even Warlock, as is very common, so he's going to be tapping for that as well. But there we go. Mountain Giant comes down. Naturalize is going to deal with that. Brazil will be milling 2 cards. I guess milling the Ooze would be a disaster here, actually, meaning that there's no way of ever stopping the Twig from going off.
That would definitely be one of the better ones. Ooze, Gul'dan,
yep.
Hooked Reaver, maybe. That's really what you're looking for. Yeah, Race wincing there. He knows he's got here.
Ooh, that's one of the cards you just said.
That's not bad.
There's about to be another one when Akawanda ends his turn.
And that does actually give Akawanda, from where he's sitting, well, in his opinion, the impression that he can go hero power first, then attack with the Twig, which was not necessarily the most obvious of plays, as Gul'dan is burned as well for Brazil. Race cannot believe it. Those were like 2 of the absolute worst burns.
Akawanda can't believe it either. He just looked very confused for a second there.
As I believe the Spanish would say, "Okay, I do not know what to make of that."
Is that what they'd say?
That just means what?
Ah.
He might go on to say queso because he wants to eat some cheese. But that's all the Spanish I know, so I'm not going to go any further.
The question is, would he use a cheese grater or a cheese slicer?
Or both. The Malygos Togwaggle of cheese implements.
Well, they're the same thing, right?
They are exactly the same.
According to Lorinda, anyway.
Yeah, they make cheese into smaller cheese. Sure, Twitch chat have literally zero idea what we're talking about right now, but thankfully, neither do we.
If you were here 2 hours ago, then maybe, just maybe.
As Race, obviously, with only 1 real game plan now, the ultimate win condition of Gul'dan has been burned, so he has to just kill his opponent.
Yep. And Mountain Giant will do a good job of that. Akawanda may have to consider playing the Plague here and the Tyrant. He's going to want to get that Tyrant out of his hand so that he can actually play Dream Petal Florist. But even then, Alex Straza isn't necessarily the best target for that.
Yeah, Dream Petal is not being played here, right? You want to reduce your Malygos. You don't want to reduce your your Floop, obviously, because
When it
when
transforms.
Floop changes, it goes back up to 4 mana. That's
Yeah.
right. Which is basically the main reason why Dream Petal Florist was phased out of the versions with Malygos and Floop.
Yeah, he doesn't want to hit either of these cards. It's just no good in the hand at the moment.
So what are your alternatives? Like you said, Plague and Tyrant seems like decent here. It can get a lot better in this matchup. Like, Brazil will very possibly have to go wide over the next few turns, but you're just doing nothing else, right?
Yep. Could be one of those games where Spain just uses the Twig as quickly as possible to maybe play an early Ultimate Infestation or something.
Plays around to Ooze quite nicely then as well. You always want to be breaking it sooner rather than later against weapon destruction.
But Aggro Wonder needs to get some card draw. That's probably the most important thing for him at the moment. Again, a Nourish, an Ultimate Infestation, maybe even a branching path.
Yeah, anything to draw through your deck is all Aggro Wonder needs. Just to find that UI or that Malygos. But really, not the easiest of turns here either for Brazil, as they could go for the plan of just developing their biggest thing in Dread Infernal. 2-drop Spellstone does protect their Giant a little bit better, I guess, which is really all they've got at the moment, right? Heals them up, though, which you'd probably just take away if you could to be able to play the Hooked Reaver a little bit bigger. That's the old Alexstrasza setting up for on the following turn. A Malygos for an awful lot of damage. You can still play UI if you wanted to next turn by breaking the Twig, even though that's a very bad use of it.
And if he draws it.
Yeah. Well, that is the talking point here, isn't it? Because going coin Alexstrasza denies coin Ultimate Infestation if you get it off the top.
Yep.
Which is a big blow, because getting UI off the top here would be exactly what you wanted otherwise.
Playing Dream Petal Florist, then hitting the Twig in and playing UI is probably fine. Very often, you will draw the Malygos, or, I mean, again, drawing Floop is no good, but is Malygos the only target you want to hit with it now, actually? I guess it is.
Yeah. I mean, if you draw UI, you probably just go, like, Dream Petal Spellstone or something, or just Spellstone and pass or whatever, like...
So many
maybe you don't. I mean, he's probably not even going to draw UI, he's just going to get some cheaper card, which becomes a lot easier to play. But here for Brazil, the choice to go Alexstrasza here does perfectly allow Race to go for the Hooked Reaver, even sensing that there's a Malygos in his opponent's hand.
Hang on. Destroy one of your mana crystals? No. That's not the Druid way.
It's a Druid's worst nightmare. Well, he's already played 2 Wild Growths, right? So this is like making him play fair all of a sudden.
Fair?
That doesn't sound like a Druid.
Swipe double Spellstone is interesting. It's just annoying that neither of them have been upgraded, and that there's no way to upgrade either of them.
Yeah, swipe. Like, you want to use your face here as well to start breaking through, because you can make the Alexstrasza connect face then. I mean, you don't. Like, that's just bad.
Literally has nothing to spend 10
This whole
extra
hand
mana
is just
on.
awful. Like, he hasn't been offered a single draw card so far, right?
He's not. No Branching Paths, no Howl, no Nourish, no Ultimate Infestation, Vitally.
That's like a third of his deck. It's like more than a third of his deck at this point. It's almost half. It's not almost half. It's a lot, though.
Time waits for no one.
Is he doing it? Is he breaking the Twig for 8 damage?
No, he's... Oh, wait, he is?
This is literally the Twig being used as a light justice here, basically. You can play the Felguard as well, but he's just doing this to connect this damage to face. He knows there's no Gul'dan, so the healing there is basically nothing. And the kill on Alexstrasza has to come, because exactly Felguard came here. And what answer is there? You can go for Self-Shroom Brewer and Felguard.
That was the best use of the Twig that was possible with the literally no tools available to Akawanda. And hey, there are outs for lethal now, sort of. UI into Moonfire would be lethal from the hand. And he still has Alexstrasza there, which can't be dealt with.
And obviously UI is the boy. That's really all you're looking for.
Well, Swipe would be lethal, wouldn't it? If Shroom
Well,
kills the fate?
Shroom Felguard is going to be the play, right? And then Alexstrasza can't connect through. So there's very few outs for lethal, I think, on the following turn, if Shroom Felguard is the play as I'm anticipating it to be. But just any draw card here is, like, fine for Race. For Akawanda, sorry.
If there's no Shroom Brewer, then Swipe would be lethal. Naturalize would be lethal. A lot of lethal outs. That has to be the play. Oh no! Akawanda has just continued to draw the worst cards possible in his deck.
Spellstone into Moonfire. That is just the worst. And they are so close to winning here.
There's double Hellfire in Brazil's hand. Isn't that just guaranteed lethal next turn?
They attack face for 12, and then they go an additional 6, which brings them up to 18, which I believe would be 1 damage off lethal. Right, because you attack in Hero Power face?
No, you're right, because the Felguard's not.
Which is so close here for Race. That is staggering.
But he can't do it.
There's no outs for lethal either.
Because Brazil is then dealing 6 damage to his own face, though, so he can't do that now. He'd have to save that for next turn.
Yeah.
Draws the Lich King. I mean, that's, as far as cards go, that's a pretty good one. That's an extra taunt getting in the way.
You kind of have to go Dread Infernal, right? Then you can trade in the 4/4. Develop you get to attack face with the Giant, right, then, which is so big. You set up lethal. You're at 8 health, but what's the difference between 8 and 9 health? This is one of the weirdest games I've ever seen of Malygos Druid. It just doesn't function like this normal because the deck is full of draw.
Still 18 cards left in the deck. Still another Moonfire. Still... Actually, there aren't that many cards left in the deck that don't draw a card. Or, like, at least put something like a Malfurion on the board. Like, there's... it's pretty much as bad as it could possibly get. Akawanda's fingers are very, very crossed right now.
Yeah, just getting the damage through to face. Needs to set up the old 2-turn lethal. Pray his opponent doesn't find the draw for any way out of this game, as another Moonfire off the top means Akawanda has to go double Moonfire on the Giant to survive. We can see, however, that won't be enough, and Brazil will have qualified through to the top 16.
This is unbelievable. There are 17 good cards in Akawanda's deck.
You can get them down to 7. They can still go double Hellfire. At 1 health here, Brazil will have qualified through. Hands in prayer there, and Race's prayers will be heard this time.
Look how happy. Relief on Race's face. They have done it. Brazil are now, I believe, the 4th team to qualify to the top 16 with a 4-0 result. What a happy day for Brazil. Akawanda not looking so happy himself. He was not dealt the best cards here that I've ever seen a Druid get dealt, but hey, they're still 3-1. Things are fine for them, but big smile from Race. Brazil have done it.
And this is why Race is just one of my absolute favorite players to watch. He is always so exuberant when he wins. You can tell how much it means to him whenever we've seen him winning at Copa, qualifying for Summer Championships. Always, you know, big old cheesy football celebrations, and it's great to see.
It is. It's always fun to see celebration in Hearthstone. I think it's something Gaskin was talking about a little bit yesterday. Let's take one more look at how that series went down. And hey, Spain put up a really good fight there, winning Odd Warrior against Deathrattle Hunter. That's something that I do not want to be forgetting, but still Brazil managed to get the reverse sweep. 3 wins in a row, Mage versus Hunter, Druid versus Priest, and finally even Warlock versus Mali Druid. What a great series.
Yeah, I did not expect that one to go that way, but then again, Druids don't usually draw Spellstone into double Moonfire when they're at 10 mana. Even then, it was so close. Like a UI off the top at any point in the last couple draws would have probably won the game. Or even just a Nourish to draw some more cards. Pretty devastating there for Spain. But they are still at 3-1, right?
Right, exactly. And that is the thing. There aren't that many teams on 3-1. They still have 2 more chances to win and still qualify without being eliminated from the tournament. It's hard drop at 3 losses. I'm sure everyone watching that knows this by now. If a team does lose 3 times, they're out. But 4 wins, although they don't stop playing, is pretty much a guarantee at qualifying. It's not a clean cut, so we can't say that 100%. Either way, we're going to have a chat with Neves from Team Brazil. This is what they have to say. Neves, congratulations on your win. Okay, first thing, you got to talk me through the Control Warrior versus Deathrattle Hunter game. What happened there?
We got real unlucky, draw all our beasts, so we kind of got tilted and delay a lot the hyena with life steal that I think was wrong. We should have played first, but I think their hex came too late. We didn't have any value in the game.
4-0. You've done it. You've probably qualified already to the top 16 of the Swiss. How does it feel to be one of those teams?
It feels really good. We were planning a lot, practice a lot for this. The pressure was really big. The Brazilian community put a lot of faith on us. So we kind of had to perform, and I think it's really relaxing knowing that we could do this. We did it.
And I wanted to ask you, with that last game there feeling so close, we could see Race just praying at the end that there wasn't any out there for the druid. What was the vibe like? How were you feeling as a group there when you were so close to qualifying through, but it looked like it might all come crumbling down?
In our group, we are like really different. Hayes was like really emotional, really nervous. Werner was more calm and keeping us down. Lucas wanna take all the risks we could. Like for him, we would like Demon Project on 2. You know?
I was wondering if that's what the hesitation was there, actually. Yeah. You said that you got a lot of help from the Brazilian community. Do you have other Brazilian pro players helping you out with deck lists and helping you prepare each week?
The other pro players help us like through the day for ladder and other tournaments, not really into the AGG lineup, but for everything. Like we play together since 2015, all the Brazilians play together. So not for the AGG specifically, we play together for everything.
All right, well, that's good to hear. You guys should definitely go and celebrate. 4-0 is a phenomenal achievement, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. And that brings day 2 of the 4th week of Hearthstone Global Games to an end. We've had some teams knocked out. We've had some teams probably qualifying. What a great day.
Yeah, it feels like it's just been kind of the day of topsy-turvy. Obviously, having a topsy-turvy priest in there, but also a lot of matchups not going the way that one might expect has led to some pretty tense series throughout.
Should we take a look at how the teams are doing? Let's see the standings here, and there you go. 3 teams have qualified already at 4-0. Ukraine, Brazil, and China sitting proudly on top there.
My pick, South Korea, just underneath there at 3-1, as well as United Kingdom's the home country of all the casters here at HGG, and Poland, the productions pick, also doing pretty well. So smiles all around here at the studio.
Did you just claim South Korea was your pick there, Derek?
Oh, I got confused. Sorry, I meant Taiwan.
There.
Sorry, I got confused. Me and Raven.
But yeah, but
Taiwan at the same point. Sorry, I was looking at Taiwan, but yeah.
But there you go. 2 series left to play this week. It's going to be tomorrow. Australia versus Peru, and then Hong Kong versus Thailand. Hong Kong versus Thailand is an elimination match. Loser of that series will be out of the Hearthstone Global Games. But for now, Brazil, Ukraine, and China will be celebrating. It must feel good to be 4-0 in this Swiss.
Yeah, you can just kick back now, take some time to maybe play some more Mimi decks in the next couple of weeks if you wanted to. However, getting that perfect 6-0 sweep is, I'm sure, an accolade that all of these teams will be trying to reach for.
Shall we take a look at tomorrow's games, what we've got coming up? I did just mention them very briefly, but There we go. It's going to be Australia versus Peru, and then Hong Kong versus Thailand. The final 2 games of the week. Usually we have some off-stream matches as well, but because we've already had so many teams eliminated, we're going to be bringing you almost everything from now on.
Yeah, that'll be very nice. Because while all the matches are uploaded to the Hearthstone Esports YouTube channel, we want to see the action.
Yeah,
There's
we
a
do.
lot of games that are seeming pretty cool, like all the UK players tweeting out that they had a game with Malygos Togwaggle Druid where their opponent had Azalina, so it's stealing their hand. Sounds pretty crazy, and I cannot wait to watch the VOD.
Gaskin, Lorinda, Derek, and I will all be back tomorrow for those final 2 matches. So we've all got them to look forward to, and we'll see you then.